Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our reactions to Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe? Today, now the Dark Universe has its own Phantom of the Opera. Let's get started.
This, I think, absolutely begs the question, is your Phantom of the Opera X-rated?
It's definitely R-rated.
Did you make a softcore porno Phantom of the Opera?
You tell
Oh, no. Don't.
me.
Wow, I guess we will see.
In 2017, Universal Studios announced the birth of a new shared universe of monster movies, bringing their classic horror icons into the contemporary franchise film landscape. But after the critical and financial failure of its first installment, the project was indefinitely abandoned. Now, in 2022, the powers that be have called upon one pulp horror devotee and one snarky film critic to unearth the concept. I'm Dylan Roth.
And I'm Dalton DeShane.
Are you afraid of the dark universe?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe? I'm one of your hosts, Dylan Roth.
And I'm the other one, Dalton DeShane.
And what we do here on Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe, if you've never listened to us before, is we have been tasked with picking up the Dark Universe, Universal Pictures' failed experiment of creating a Marvel-style shared universe of monster movies, right where it left off after the one movie they made, The Mummy, 2017. And we've been building an ongoing storyline from that, featuring various remakes of different Universal monster movies, building our own little Infinity Saga.
And today we're going back to one of the OGs of the Universal horror saga, The Phantom of the Opera.
It goes all the way back to the silent era.
Yes, and this is going to be Dylan's pitch. I get to kind of relax and just make sure I don't fuck up my lines and, you know, give you some feedback.
I'm really looking forward to this one. I worked really hard on this one.
These two back-to-back, the creature and this one, are sort of very exciting for both of us, and also a little high pressure because we're introducing new characters into the dark universe.
Yeah, and I think that these have in common, and probably the only thing that they have in common, is that we each took this well-known property, well-known kind of character or film or whatever, and put maybe the most of a weird spin on it of any of these. I have done something that I think is kind of obvious with this.
Okay.
But also, probably the weirdest and dumbest thing I've ever done on the show.
I'm very excited to figure out what that might be. The Phantom is interesting because I feel like a lot of our listeners maybe didn't realize that the Phantom is a Universal monster. The Phantom is Phantom of the Opera, very well known, obviously, longest running musical on Broadway.
35 years coming to an end this month.
Wow.
Do not make this a musical. Do not ride off the coattails of Weber or anyone else.
In April 2023 is when the run ends.
We didn't even plan.
We did not plan for that, but yeah, we are. When you listen to this, Phantom will have just closed.
Wow.
At the Majestic Theater.
Hell yeah! Wow, that's good for us.
Yeah, I mean the hashtag will probably pop in, so that's good.
That's perfect. We're gonna get so many new listeners.
Yes.
But the creature is sort of a different beast because no pun intended. But the creature is primarily only known for being a Universal classic monster, and that sort of original interpretation is the most famous. So I want to make sure we get into your pitch as quickly as possible. But before we do that, we have our new segment, Fan Expectations. We are now going to pretend that it is our slate reveal for the Phase 2, and we have just announced that we're doing a Phantom of the Opera movie, and we put it out to you, the fans, what you would want from a dark universe Phantom of the Opera movie.
All right, and we set the word out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think that's it. And
Discord
and our new Discord.
Discord.
Yes. It's been so lovely talking to everybody who's on the Discord so far. If you would like to join our Discord, please check out patreon.com/Dylan and Dalton.
Yeah.
And help us get to our second podcast, Are You Afraid of Dylan and Dalton?
So let's get into some of the feedback we got from fans as to what they're looking for from your pitch. First, I'm not going to attribute this to any one listener because it was pretty much all of them said, is it a musical? They want it to be a musical. But
that would be something. When
I do not want it to be a musical. There are Phantom of the Opera adaptations that are not musicals. Most of them are not musicals.
I did say in the Discord that if you gave me sheet music, I would sing it on air.
Okay, I haven't written sheet music in a really long time. Now, granted, Logic will transcribe.
Yeah, sure.
So, maybe in the future, if I wanted to have you sight sing something.
I'm also not a great sight singer. I'd probably have to bang it out on the piano or something first.
Would be a hard thing for me to ask you to do without any kind of forewarning.
Tell you what, if we get enough Patreon subscribers, we'll set a goal that is high enough that if we hit that goal, we will write a musical episode of the show, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh gosh, that sounds like a lot of work, Dalton.
Yeah, that's why it's going to be like once we get to like $5,000 a month. Hell, at that level, we'll give you a musical episode every month. I'm not going to promise.
All right, get on that Patreon. Tell your friends.
Yes, everyone was asking if it's going to be a musical, but I should clarify that our Universal lineage is different for the Phantom than what most fans experience with the Phantom might be. The Phantom of the Opera was originally a 1910 novel written by Gaston Leroux, the most French name
absolutely
that's ever existed. Shout out to our French listeners. I don't know if we have a single one of you, but let us know if we do. It was turned into a 1925 silent horror movie by Universal Pictures, starring the senior Lon Chaney. That, of course, was not a musical.
No, there was no recorded sound
silent.
For the film.
Yeah. They ended up remaking it in 1943 with Claude Rains, still not a musical. And then it wasn't until 1986 that Andrew Lloyd Webber did his Broadway adaptation. But the Universal history is just it as a sort of romance monster horror movie.
Right.
But I do think, as clearly we can see from this fan reaction, that despite us really working with the Universal history of the character, there would be a fan expectation for things from the musical to at least be referenced or mixed in.
It's too much of, it's too important to the public perception of the character to be ignored. And I'll tell you what else, which kind of allows anything that we want from the musical. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure that the studio would have to make sure to work out these rights because they don't technically have the film adaptation rights. And that's because Andrew Lloyd Webber would not give them to anybody who would not give him complete creative control over the movie. Hence the Joel Schumacher Phantom of the Opera movie.
You're saying the rights to the musical.
To the musical.
Not to the novel.
Not for the novel. The novel's in the public domain. But the pro shot of the musical, which you can rent or find online, that is just the canonical, this is what the musical is.
Yeah.
Distributed by Universal Pictures.
Wow.
So it is actually, as far as I'm concerned, you can fight me on this if you want, anything that's in the musical, I think is fair game to use in our universe.
That is quite a nice.
Do not borrow from the musical. For God's sake, that damn thing overshadows the original novel. Do not borrow from the musical.
Coincidence.
Yes, it is.
Universal Pictures got our back.
Now, it would have just been the home video distribution, I think. I don't think there was a theatrical run. But as far as I'm concerned, that makes it within the gray area where I think we can use it however much
the
we
Dark
want.
Universe, yes.
So that's good news for anybody who wants more closer resemblance to the music.
Well, and so we did have, back to the fan expectations, Wombat in the Are You Afraid of Dylan and Dalton Discord, love the alliteration there, says, honestly, my ideal would be not a full rehash of the musical, but little bits of loving parody and callbacks, like a falling chandelier, spooky catacombs, etc. And I think that's true. Yeah, definitely some kind of references to it. While you kind of have to walk the tightrope between the classic interpretation, the Lon Chaney interpretation, and the musical adaptation. You don't have to. I'm not gonna get too much into it yet, but there is. I will lay it out for you that I would say that my primary reference point is the musical. Interesting.
And I'll tell you the other thing. I don't really like the musical that much, so that's an interesting combination for me.
Well, and
then don't borrow anything from it.
Me, as of course the OG horror person, that's got me thinking, I want to see more of the Universal influence in here, but I guess we'll see what you have in store for us. Friend of the pod, Frankie Starker, former guest, said on Twitter that they are looking for a heightened world of the opera where the Phantom can manipulate and blur the boundaries of reality, whether that's an actual opera house or another environment. I like this because one of the pitfalls of the Phantom, as well as another Universal monster that we have not touched yet, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Sometimes you can get
Notre Dame.
There's a little bit of people who are, disabled are monsters. You know? There's a lot of just like, ugh, that guy's gross looking. And so giving the Phantom some actual sort of reality or mystical powers to kind of elevate their monster status would make sense to me.
Okay, but the Phantom isn't actually disabled. He's just disfigured. He's not deaf like Quasimodo. He's not half blind like Quasimodo. The only thing he has in common is disfigurement. Disfigurement, a disfigurement he was born with.
Me. Again, you seem to be staying tight-lipped about...
I will say, I think that one of the things that's interesting about the Phantom of the Opera is that traditionally, the Phantom is not actually a supernatural figure.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is the Dark Universe.
Yes.
So all bets are off in that regard.
Yeah. Because they got to be able to, play ball with our universe.
It definitely would be more of a challenge for us to introduce a Phantom of the Opera that has no supernatural elements and then try to put them in the Dark Legion too.
Yeah.
So it's a topic we're going to get to.
Yeah, if the Phantom was just like, well, this is just like a weirdo that likes opera, it's like, well, then why is he in the room with us here at Prodigium? And we got McLaughlin4Awesome on Instagram says, just go super weird and make it a mockumentary style comedy, which I think is a very bold take.
That would be fun, but I think you might be mad at me if I did that.
I mean, look.
I will, however, say that I knew when I accepted your challenge, and I forewarned you a while back before I did my Werewolves of London pitch, you challenged me to do a straight up horror movie and said I didn't know if I was going to get to it in phase 2. I may yet to get to it in phase 2 in my next installment. I would say this is not a straight up horror movie, although if you count Ghostbusters, then it might be a horror movie.
I think we're hinting on the tone then of your film. And I could not get mad because I am the person who introduced slapstick comedy into our dark universe.
Yes, that's true.
Through The Invisible Man.
You
so
did it first.
I can't get that mad.
You added that color to our palette, and I intend to use it.
No, do not turn the Phantom of the Opera into a supernatural comedy. Just don't.
It.
And finally, Michael King Chloe on Instagram says, honestly, so curious who your director is going to be. For such a theatrical story, this literal grand opera, I feel like the director choice will be the defining choice of the movie. You can take any horror thriller director and put their name in front of this title, and we would immediately conjure a mental picture of what that movie would be. Is this potentially the most director-driven project of our dark universe?
Okay, so this is really interesting because... for reasons that I'm going to unveil more reasons why this director was chosen throughout the episode. Because I really want to, I got some surprises in store for you.
Okay.
But the director I've chosen is actually not a super well-known director, but it is someone I like. This is Angela Robinson, who is best known as the director of Professor Marston and the Wonder Women.
I've never heard of this.
That is a movie about the writer who co-created Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And his relationship with his wife and their third partner that inspired in part the character. And it's very much like a tender story about bondage and polyamory. And it's really moody and pretty. And as I understand the appeal of the Phantom of the Opera, which I don't fully share, the idea of the Phantom as a seductive figure and sort of the fantasy of this weird, maybe not supernatural guy who must have you is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And it's a big part of mine. That's just one of the reasons I'm going to get through why I think that she's uniquely qualified for this movie. But it is kind of an off the beaten pick. And just like with Issa Lopez or with Remy Weeks, I'll forewarn the audience on social media ahead of time if they want to get acquainted with Angela Robinson's work. But she's my pick, and there were a number of reasons for what she's the only person I would have do this movie.
Now, this, I think, absolutely begs the question, is your Phantom of the Opera X-rated?
It's definitely R-rated.
Did you make a softcore porno Phantom of the Opera?
You tell me.
Wow, I guess we will see.
It will be up to Angela Robinson, who I think is now working on developing something with Guillermo del Toro.
So is Issa Lopez. We're using a lot
that's
of...
our real. We're not going to get GDT, but we're going to get everybody who GDT wants to work with, which just means that we're geniuses like GDT, right? Yeah. It'll be up to Angela Robinson and your imaginations how explicit things get in the story.
Okay.
The show, our show, I think keeps it PG-13.
Well, yeah, we can't show a titty on the podcast.
No, we can't, and I don't get too graphic about it.
As Scissor Sisters once said, you can't see tits on the radio.
And they were right. That's what we believe today. And I'll get more into that as we go.
As far as my own expectations, I cannot share them yet because to disclose the fans, I have a little bit of an inkling as to what Dylan's pitch is going to be because at the beginning of our phase 2 planning, Dylan needed to just clear a couple details with me just to make sure that we weren't going to be stepping on each other's toes and sort of like overlapping some things. And so you did share some details of your pitch that have changed what my expectations would be. And so I don't want to share them yet, but I will say that based on what you did tell me, I do have sort of new hopes and expectations for it that maybe we will get into as things go and as you reveal information.
Right. Well, I will say that because, in part, I like when we don't know a lot going in. Yeah. And I happened to, before Werewolves of London, I ended up telling you a lot while I was working on it, just thinking out loud while we were hanging out. And I regret doing that because it's less fun for me, because I like to surprise you with stuff as you surprise me with stuff, right? Because I forewarned you about some of the stuff in this, I was encouraged to go weirder and throw more curveballs at you, because as much as I love our listening audience, and I'm so grateful that we have like 400 or 500 people listening right now, my main audience on this show is you. And
because I'll roast your ass.
Yes. I mean, not only are you my dear friend who I want to impress creatively, because I'm very impressed with you creatively.
Oh, thank you.
You're also the person who's going to give me the most immediate feedback and sort of shaping the impression that the rest of our audience is going to get, right? It's like if you watched a movie with a film critic sitting next to you and then you saw them shaking their head or jotting in their notes, you're going to think like, I thought that was okay. What happened? It's like when I watched The Rings of Power with my wife, who's like a Tolkien scholar, and she was so mad every 5 minutes and I didn't know why. Like I could have just watched it and been like, that's a passable show. But I knew something was wrong with it because she kept going, and I'm like, all right.
I'm going to turn the fans against you, Dylan.
So it's in my best interest for you to enjoy this.
Well, I am looking forward to enjoying it. I think without further ado, unless there's anything else you want to cover, we should get into the pitch.
Let's do it. Here we go. So, submitted for the approval of the Universal Studios Board of Directors. This is Dylan Roth's The Phantom of the Opera.
Oh my god, it took the first 15 minutes just to get to us.
Over the unscored opening logos, we hear echoing voices. To some in our audience, this will no doubt be instantly familiar.
Lot 663, then, ladies and gentlemen, a poster for this house's production of Hannibal by Chalamet. Do I have...
Oh my god. Literally taking that opening.
Have 10 francs.
The logos conclude, and we cut to an extreme close-up of an old man with sorrowful eyes. This is Raoul, Broadway star John Riddle, a nobleman dressed in a top hat and finery that would already be out of fashion in 1905 when this scene is set. He's seated in a wheelchair and attended to by a servant. His best years are behind him. Before him, in the darkness, it's dark enough that so far as we're concerned, there is no room to speak of, simply figures in a void, is an auctioneer who rapidly introduces each lot to the few visible bidders.
Lot 665, ladies and gentlemen, a papier-mâché musical box in the shape of a barrel organ, attached the figure of a monkey in Persian robes playing the cymbals. This item discovered in the vaults of the theater, still in working order.
A porter twists the key on the music box and it begins to chime a playful yet haunting tune. The monkey's arms move, its cymbals never actually touching.
May I start at 20 francs? 15 then. 15 I am bid.
Raoul raises his paddle and wins the bid. His lip curls into a weak smile.
Sold for 30 francs to Raoul. Thank you, sir.
The porter hands Raoul the music box and he inspects it as if it is a priceless family heirloom. It contains not just music, but memories, and they overtake the sound of the auctioneer's continuing dialogue. Underscore rises and Raoul sings over it. A collector's piece, indeed. Every detail.
Oh my god. Please. Ugh.
Exactly as she said. As he sings, we pull away from Raoul and it becomes clear that we are not at an auction in 1908, but at the Majestic Theater on Broadway in 2023. We are viewing the opening scene of a production of Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, good. Wait, what?
This prologue is performed in front of the curtain, before the overture. Resting on the floor between the characters is a large, decommissioned chandelier. Raoul's solo, or rather, actor John Riddle's, comes to an end and the auctioneer continues the scene. It's a packed house, and the audience watches in rapt silence.
Lot 666 then, a chandelier in pieces. Some of you may recall the strange affair of the Phantom of the Opera, a mystery never fully explained. We are told, ladies and gentlemen, that this is the very chandelier which figures in the famous disaster.
As the auctioneer's monologue continues, we cut to a view from the rafters. A stagehand walks carefully and quietly on a catwalk. We watch his legs and feet, which stop suddenly, and he falls to the steel grate, his throat cut. Below, a drop of blood lands on top of Raoul's hat. Actor John Riddle notices, but is trying to stay in the scene.
Our workshops have restored it and fitted up parts of it with wiring for the new electric light so that we may get a hint of what it may look like when reassembled. Perhaps we may frighten away the ghost of so many years with a little illumination.
That very instant, a heavy stage light plummets from the rafters and caves in John Riddle's head. We cut to black as the Phantom's famous organ theme plays. A familiar title appears, The Phantom of the Opera, but it's incomplete. More text appears above it, revealing the film's true name, The Phantom of the Opera.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I could not find anyone else who had done this.
That hadn't done like a Phantom haunting a Phantom of the Opera production?
Someone must have.
I was just thinking that.
I did a search with quotes,
before?
The Phantom of the Opera, and it came up with nothing. That seems insane to me. I'm sure someone's done it. Send that to me. I would love to see it. But
they haven't done the title, but has this sort of premise been done before of a Phantom in the Phantom of the Opera Broadway theater?
Probably. I didn't find one. I'm sure it's been done. It seems like the most ripe fan fiction premise in the world. By the way, I know that normally I score the show after the fact, and I'm still doing that, but there are going to be a few sound and music cues in the episode that I am triggering live, so Dalton can hear it as I hit play, and I am controlling the soundboard today. Which is very exciting, because I've been jealous of Dalton's power over the soundboard for quite some time.
Now,
all right, do you have any questions about this basic conceit that I've created? This part you knew about.
I did not know about
you did not know about this?
I did not know about
All right, this is another part you know about.
Yeah, I know about something else, I assume, that will still happen later, but this I was not sure about. Now, this works, of course, because you said Universal Pictures has the distribution rights, it seems, for Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom, the Broadway version.
Yeah. I know that, like, the tricky thing about trying to contemporize Phantom is, if you want to do it in a modern setting, you either have to do it in an opera, which I'm sure is probably what you would have done because you have some opera nerd credibility, or you want to do it in theater, and it seemed to do it in the theater is the natural way to pay homage to the Lloyd Webber musical, at which point it's like, well, you should just do it at the Lloyd Webber musical if you're going to do that. And that felt like a fun thing to do. And also, like, trying to do it in like a cool modern contemporary thing, then you're just going to end up nudging against the Phantom of the Paradise, which is like a camp classic and everyone loves that. And I felt like going in that direction was infringing on that territory. So this, combined with another kind of idea that I had, which is which we're going to get to very shortly, is kind of where this came from. Now, you have a look of confusion is not the right word. I'm going to ask you to reserve judgment.
I'm not judging. I have workshop brain going where I'm pondering if there is a way to heighten this cold open. Now, I will be frank that I don't know the musical super well.
Okay.
I saw it when I was a kid. I think I've seen that pro shop version, and I definitely saw it in a
I've seen it in Toronto. Excellent show. The seating, however, I was so far back, I felt like I needed opera glasses.
theater on a touring production or something. But I don't know it super well. I assume this opening scene is just something directly from...
It is the opening. I trimmed it, but it is the opening scene.
Okay.
What I'd like you to keep in mind then, because there is something that I'm frustrated that we open with him, with the only piece of like the original play that we have here in the beginning is we have him picking up the cymbal ape music box thing, right? And I have that because that's when the music of the play starts, and I need that in order to establish where we are in like the diegesis of the play.
Okay. Okay.
But I never bring the music box back as a thing in the movie and in the script, and that right now is the biggest thing that I'm looking for a place to include it, either as an actual artifact or as a thematic element.
That's kind of what I was thinking was, is there a way where we can make this particular scene in the play meaningful, but that will be borne out by the rest of the show. So
yeah, I would say that is kind of something that I'm still missing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really pretty happy with the rest of it, and I want to see how it goes.
Let's keep going.
Okay, here's where the sort of big twist thing that realistically, in promoting this movie, people would already know.
Okay.
We now get a full opening credit sequence, including a montage of the events of previous Dark Universe films, specifically centered on the journeys of archaeologist/expert in arcane magics, Dr. Jennifer Halsey, played by Annabelle Wallace, and paranormal investigator Carol Lemley, played by Darcy Carden. We see the pair fight mummies and vampires separately, and then together. We catch their first dance and their first kiss, and the final shot of the sequence under the director credit sees them ride off into the sunset together in a van, as in the end of the Dark Legion House of Dracula. It's a thrilling love story starring the two of them.
Love it.
Act 1. The rousing Andrew Lloyd Webber music fades out as we pan across a modest, cozy apartment, furnished in two clashing aesthetics. On the coffee and end tables are an assortment of beautiful, delicate artifacts from across the ancient world, but also a figurine of Lola Bunny. On the wall is a portrait of a woman of English gentry, squeezed between a framed Leader Kinney concert poster and a team photo for a roller derby team, the 2014 Portland Polterdykes.
We brought back the Polterdykes. Yeah.
We find Carol Lemley and Dr. Jennifer Halsey lounged lazily across a couch watching Top Chef, calm and content. On the TV, host Padma Lakshmi enters the kitchen wearing something stunning.
Padma Lakshmi.
She certainly is.
Love of my life.
What on earth are we going to do once we run out of old Top Chef episodes to watch?
We could torrent some of the international spin-offs, see what they've got cooking on Top Chef Brazil.
You don't speak Portuguese.
Yeah, but you do. You could translate.
Carol sits up.
Better yet, let's go to Brazil. I'm serious. Let's jet off somewhere. I've got some savings, and you made a small fortune hunting monsters for a shadowy global paramilitary organization. What's stopping us?
Well, we've got the tasting with the caterers on Wednesday, and the florist next week, and then my mother's flying in.
Okay, point taken.
Wedding planning is its own sort of adventure. We slowly push in on Jenny's gentle, relaxed face. Her eyes look past us at the comfort TV in front of her, then flick to look us right in the eye. That's right. We're doing a musical.
Oh my God.
I used to be something of a soldier. I chose a life of excitement. I used to pass out in a strange bed every night in some strange corner of the world and then be gone on the next flight. Then I met somebody fully unexpected. And it struck me like lightning that I'd studied every magic in the world except the only one worth finding. And for the first time in my life, there's solid ground beneath my feet, and I don't mind it. It's warm and quiet, and I have never felt so alive.
We pull back to see that the soliloquy has gone unnoticed by... Okay, hang on. No, we're not done. That's the halfway point of the song.
Okay.
You're going to have to wait.
We have to talk about this.
We pull back to see that this soliloquy has gone unnoticed by Carol, but now it's her turn.
I used to be a ghost detective who never caught any suspects. I bounced around between some bogus haunted houses, said I think I feel a presence, then go home and cash a check. Then I fell into a real-life horror movie. A British guy tried to eat me. I fell in love and saved the world, and now I'm eating snacks and watching TV. And the woman of my dreams is wearing cozy pink pajamas right beside me. She's warm and quiet, and I am going out of my mind. I'd only barely started living, and now maybe this is it. I've made a home with Miss Indiana Jones, but she never wears the outfit, and she's scared to use the whip. Can a happy ending come too soon? Can a wedding come after a honeymoon? I was finally inspired, now I'm suddenly retired. It's warm here and it's quiet, and I feel something dying.
Carol, is something wrong?
What? Oh, I'm fine. Let's watch another Top Chef.
Oh, I was hoping you'd say that. The next one's Restaurant Wars.
So yeah, I wrote a fucking musical.
Gee, you sold this in the intro.
It was so hard. It was so hard not to give it away. Somebody, the first person who posted
You just cost us $5,000 a month, Dylan. We had a plan.
I woke up in the middle of the night with this song in my head, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna write a musical.
When did you start writing a musical?
About 6 weeks ago.
Who is singing this?
That we are reuniting the cast of House of Dracula. That was Ella Dawson as Jenny Halsey and Steph Sallow as Carol.
Ella has
Carol
been
Limley.
keeping this from me.
Oh, I don't know if you've noticed, I've been filming your reaction because she wanted to see it. Oh, yes, we've been doing this for some time.
What the fuck?
In fairness, I've only written 3.5 original songs.
That's still a lot for a podcast episode.
Here's the thing, Dalton.
Why do you keep setting the bar for working on this thing higher for me?
I know. No, okay. Here's the thing, Dalton. I feel a little disappointed in my own work on the show to date because there's always been something missing, right?
Okay.
Wolfman and Werewolves of London didn't have a good climax, right? And Jekyll Hyde, I think, has a couple different narrative problems. I don't think any of them had a really solid third act, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, I really want to nail it this time. But you know what? That in itself wouldn't be enough. I need to make up for my previous failures. And what's more is I've always enjoyed that this podcast is a way by which I can use my entire skill set. And while I enjoy scoring the podcast, that's not really using my musical talents to the fullest. So
you're a very talented songwriter.
Thank you, Dalton, as are you.
Thank
and
you.
I was so excited to do it. I almost felt like it was fucked up for me to do it before you did.
Now I have to do a phase 3 musical.
Okay, yeah. So we're doing a musical. I've written 3.5 original songs.
Holy shit.
We have a cast. And well, I mean, part of the thing is I did not try to bring in a bunch of ringers for this. Like, we're in a music scene. It probably would have been smarter from a marketing standpoint for me to ask a bunch of people from the music scene in Brooklyn to do it. But I thought it would be fun to, rather than, rack my brain about, oh man, who I can get for all this, who's gonna be available? Like, why don't I start with people who have already played the character,
Oh, yeah,
who we already know are game to do the show.
Yeah, reprising their roles.
Yes, it's gonna be a musical.
Holy shit.
All right.
The fans are going to be delighted. I'm delighted.
It was so hard to not respond to any of those with a thinking emoji.
Yeah, you were silent in the Discord.
Well, because they're not we're recording this so early. They're not going to hear it for 2 weeks after now, right? Because we're recording this right before the release of the WrestleMania episode.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to give it away. I wanted to be a fun surprise on the air. Now we can move on.
Incredible.
We're 40 minutes into the episode. We are on page 7
We have a
of the
musical
script.
episode of the podcast.
Yeah, and sooner than you'd probably think. That's usually a fuck it, season 7, what's left to do.
Yeah, this is only our 9th pitch, and we're doing musicals.
But you know what? It's also the 10th installment of the Dark Universe, and I thought it was fun and something special.
Sure, yeah.
Let's move on.
Insane.
Now we get some exposition via a news report, maybe from some real-world YouTube channel that covers Broadway, like Wait in the Wings or something. A rash of unexplained happenings has spread across the famed Manhattan Theater District over the past few months. Among the more high-profile incidents, the seat cushions in a luxury box at the Richard Rodgers Theater, home of Hamilton, have been repeatedly torn inside out overnight while the building was vacant. A rack of costumes spontaneously burst into flames backstage during a performance of Chicago. Tall stacks of books, heavy stuff like War and Peace and Infinite Jest, were found in the dressing room at Funny Girl, a cruel prank on illiterate leading lady Leah Michele. All these disturbances have been harmless enough until last night when a stagehand's throat was slashed backstage and a light fixture fell on the head of John Riddle, the Phantom of the Opera's Raoul, crushing his skull in front of a paying audience. There are only a few weeks of shows left before Phantom is scheduled to conclude its record-setting 35-year run at the Majestic Theater, but those performances are now in jeopardy, not due to a lack of interest, of course. In fact, sales of remaining tickets actually spiked this morning, but because the cast refuses to perform until something has been done about this apparent haunting. We cut to well-dressed but very stressed theater producer Dana Wexford, played by Allison Janney, speaking to a local news reporter.
Is Actors Equity prepared to stand behind this strike, given the cast's bizarre justification?
Actors are superstitious people. You and I might not believe in ghosts, but try explaining that to a group of people who run outside, spin around, and spit if someone says the name of a certain Shakespearean drama.
But wouldn't the late John Riddle want Phantom to finish its run in his memory? Whatever happened to The Show Must Go On?
Don't look at me. Equity has specific bylaws regarding ghost-related work stoppages. We're required to hire a paranormal investigator to either relocate or exterminate any harmful spirits. We're currently on the lookout for qualified candidates, whatever the hell that means.
This is all true.
Yes, that's right. If you go through the Actors Equity contract, you will find that this is in there. We pull back to see that Carol is watching this news report on her phone while sitting up in bed. Jenny is asleep next to her. Carol considers waking her, then decides not to. Instead, she skips right to buying 2 round-trip plane tickets to New York City. Takeoff time, 8 a.m. the next morning. Cut to Carol and Jenny running through LAX trying to catch their flight, with Carol lightly dismissing Jenny's confused and frustrated protests. You could have at least let me call the caterers first to try and reschedule our tasting. We're going to lose our deposit.
Adventure waits for no one. Come on, they're boarding our row now.
This might be a cool place for a big, energetic musical number involving everyone in the airport, but I don't have time to write an entire songbook for this, so just imagine a back and forth between Jenny trying to make sense of Carol's behavior, Carol shrugging it off, and the entire airport staff and patrons gossiping that there's trouble in paradise.
There's a phantom in the paradise.
On the plane, Carol sits, by the way, we're continuing tradition that we're going to have people fly coach and as many of these in phase 2 as possible.
Great.
On the plane, Carol sits in her seat on her laptop doing research. Jenny stares out the window, lost in thought. Carol, too engrossed in her own thing to mind Jenny's mood, waves her over to look at something on her screen. It displays an annotated map of Manhattan.
Check this out. I've plotted out every unexplained incident reported at a Manhattan theater over the past 3 months. There's been at least one strange happening at each of the musicals currently on Broadway. Well, except for Dear Evan Hansen.
Do you suppose that's a clue?
It could be. Though if I were haunting Broadway, that's probably the one I'd skip too. Dear Evan Hansen sucks. There have been a lot of repeat visits too. Our culprit's been to Phantom the most times, followed by Funny Girl, Chicago, and Little Shop of Horrors, which makes sense considering we're likely dealing with a nostalgic spirit revisiting the shows they loved when they were alive.
Carol, I know you're excited about this, but in all of my years of studying Arcana, I've never found evidence of this sort of storybook poltergeist. People don't return from the dead because they have unfinished business with Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. They do it because they've been cursed by dark forces like Set to pursue some apocalyptic agenda.
Nick brought you back from the dead that one time, and Jack, and Vale, a bunch of times.
That's different, and you know it. Nick used the power of Set to return us to our bodies. In all my years at Prodigium, we've never had a confirmed report of a soul existing on Earth without a vessel. Between Carol and Jenny's headrests, we see that a passenger behind them is eavesdropping and looking very confused.
That doesn't mean it's never happened. Up until we met Jack, had you ever run into an invisible man? Our friend, the food chemist, who literally disappeared before we could invite him to our wedding? Crazy shit happens. We're talking about magic here. A new world of gods and monsters.
That's what I've been trying to explain to you. This world is only new to you. There are millennia of history and precedent. It's taken me most of my life to learn the rules and rights of it all. And you've only been at it for a year.
I was a paranormal investigator for nearly as long as you worked for Prodigium.
And you never found anything! Carol stops short of saying whatever was next on her mind. Instead, she crosses her arms and stares a hole into the seat back in front of her. Jenny unclenches, seeing that she's hurt her fiancé. Carol, I'm only repeating what you've told me yourself.
Yeah, but it's different when I say it.
The couple sits in silence for a while, stewing in a tension that their relationship has never borne before. In the seat behind them, a passenger types frantically onto Twitter, "The lady in front of me on this flight just very casually explained how she returned from the dead?" Carol and Jenny land in New York and head straight for the famous Majestic Theater, home of the Phantom of the Opera for the past 35 years. There, they meet with theater financier Dana Wexford, who lays out Carol's job as defined by the union. In the language
Just as an aside here, but if I were to do my own Phantom of the Opera story, it would be inspired by the Phantom of the Opera. Have it set in 1860s Toronto at the Royal Lyceum. Yeah, I like Toronto. It's a wonderful place.
of the contract, an accredited expert.
And yes, I like period pieces. Given the chance, I will never, unless it's unavoidable, I will not write a story set in the modern day.
Expert must, quote, uncover the offending spirit's objective, be it conscious or subconscious, and assist in either its satisfaction or unequivocal failure. Can you tell an actor wrote this?
So they want me to figure out the ghost's motivation.
In so many words, either finish the ghost's unfinished business, or if that's not possible, finish the ghost. And please do it quickly. This bullshit has brought the entire economy of Broadway to a screeching halt. There are millions of dollars at stake.
You can count on me, Miss Wexford. My partner and I have dealt with this sort of thing before, and we'll have it straightened out in no time. Isn't that right, Dr. Halsey?
Certainly, Ms. Lemley. And what exactly are you a doctor of? Parapsychology? Excuse me?
We'll get started right away.
Carol takes Jenny by the arm and pulls her and her suitcase of gadgets down the aisles of the stage, where she starts to unpack. As she unloads a half-dozen gadgets that Jenny assures her do absolutely nothing, we peer down over them from the rafters, as if in someone's point of view. The couple's arguments are interrupted by the sound of footsteps on metal. Carol looks up and points her electromagnetic field meter towards the rafters, and it flickers. Despite Jenny's assurances that this is a normal thing to happen when you point a device that measures electricity at a ceiling covered in light fixtures, Carol leads Jenny on a search of the maze of ladders and catwalks above the stage. Though they've been told that the theater is otherwise empty, a faint voice begins to echo through the rafters. It's singing, softly, a winding, melancholy tune. Carol tries to find the source of the melody, but it seems to be coming from everywhere.
You hear it too, right?
Yes, there must be a set of speakers hidden all around here.
Or...
Jenny ignores this. She takes her cell phone out of her pocket, taps her screen a few times, and then holds it up to the air.
What are you doing?
I'm Shazamming it.
Oh, like our ghost's gonna be on Spotify.
Got it! Jenny shows Carol her phone screen. The song has been identified as Ria's Lament by Erica Lawrence. The cover image is a soft-focus, artsy photograph of a young woman, played by Aubrey Plaza, with straight, black, chin-length hair. Erica Lawrence. Ever heard of her?
No. But I bet you a week's worth of dish duty that she's pushing up daisies.
Jenny and Carol are standing shoulder to shoulder, both looking at Jenny's phone, when a soft breath of air passes between their heads. They both sense it, and we see it slightly disturb their hair. Without turning their heads, their eyes flick towards each other, and then, as if in a silent countdown, they both whirl around on their heels, yelling, "Aha!" But there's nothing there. Jenny maintains a severe disposition as she scans the area for signs of life, but Carol is positively giddy. Cut to the couple walking down a Manhattan street in daylight. Carol is practically dancing with excitement, while Jenny maintains an even clip.
Ah! Ghost encounter! You have no idea how long I've been waiting for something like this. Okay, yes, you do, because I tell you all the time, but it's finally happening. A spooky voice, a cool breath out of nowhere. You heard it, you felt it, I'm not crazy.
I heard it, I felt it, you're not crazy.
She agrees! And check it out, check it out, check it out. I just Googled Erica Lawrence, and guess what?
She's dead.
She's dead. She's dead, she's dead, she's completely fucking dead.
A scandalized tourist stops in her tracks as Carol dances past, ecstatic over this poor woman's passing. Then the tourist seems to trip over his own feet and just barely avoids falling on his face. Carol stops dancing and starts reading something off her phone.
Erica Lawrence was an actress, singer, and composer best known for her acclaimed off-Broadway musical workshops Absence and The Last New Year. The song we heard backstage was a demo from Absence, by the way. She was killed in a car accident in April 2013. Jenny, that's exactly 10 years ago. No wonder she's come back.
Because she died 10 years ago.
It's a big anniversary.
For a living person, yes.
Come on, Jenny, you've got to admit that this is a promising lead.
It is a lead. I just think you're drawing a lot of conclusions based on confirmation bias. It's not very good science.
That's what I've got you for. You're my Scully.
As in to your Mulder.
Jenny, baby, you don't know what an honor this is. Dana Scully was my first, most formative crush. That's what got me started on my whole paranormal investigation career track. The erotic adventures of a smoking hot secret agent and that guy who played a lady on Twin Peaks. And here we are, making spooky dreams come true.
Oh, it's a nightmare, all right. For the next leg of their investigation, Carol and Jenny seek out Erica Lawrence's next of kin, her older sister Claudia, played by Selma Blair. Claudia lives in an upscale apartment building in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, paid for by her lucrative career in software. It's all rigged up with the sort of smart home gadgets that tech workers are into. There are electronic frames on all the walls, each rotating through a different set of photos around a unique theme. Jenny and Carol tell Claudia that they're journalists doing research for an article about Erica's music. Claudia explains that she and Erica were both considered prodigies in their youth. Claudia for her aptitude for programming, and Erica for her musical talents. Claudia sits her guests down for a cup of tea and pulls one of the digital frames off the wall for them to examine. This one is all photos of Claudia and Erica together, from their childhood through their 20s. They're 5 years apart, but for a few years in their 20s, they're almost like twins, differentiated only by Erica's severe chin-length haircut and Claudia's long hip-length locks, which she still has today. Through adulthood, however, you can track the growing distance in their lifestyles through the photos. Erica is increasingly bohemian and thrift store chic. Claudia leans into being a business professional. Her hair is still long, but it's pinned up and wrapped tight. We used to say we were two halves of one perfect brain. She had the artistic flair, the social skills, the sense of humor. I was good with gadgets, software, money, practical stuff. For most of her life, I'd happily have traded my gifts for hers, but the rest of the world didn't prize them quite so highly. We were under the impression that her career prospects were promising before her accident. She had momentum, that's true, but she was deep in debt from putting on her workshops. Meanwhile, I was moving up in the world, and when she couldn't keep up, I moved out of the apartment we shared and got my own place. I still supported her a little, helped her out here and there, but it wasn't the same. Things got a lot harder for her after that. Eventually, she couldn't make rent, and when she asked to come stay with me, I was just exhausted from it. She was 30 and I was 35. I decided enough was enough. I turned her away. So she packed her stuff into her friend's shitty car to move back to Jersey. Claudia fights tears. Jenny puts a hand on Claudia's shoulder. Carol is wound up like she's about to burst. I'm so sorry, Claudia. It's a terrible feeling to live with. but your sister's death wasn't your fault. I know. Intellectually, I know I'm not responsible. At least my last 3 therapists don't think so, but it hasn't gotten any easier. I'm just so sorry. I wish I could have told her I was sorry. Carol leans in and, with a hint of a smile, looks Claudia in the eye.
Maybe you still can.
Jenny shoots Carol a look of utter horror. Smash cut to the front steps of Claudia's apartment building as Jenny bursts out the door in a rage. Before the door can close behind her, Carol follows her out.
Jenny, what the hell, man?
I can't believe you. I can't believe you would taunt that poor woman with the promise of reconciling with her dead sister. You can't just dangle that in front of a person.
But I can do it. She's right there at the Majestic.
You don't know that. You are risking sending a grieving woman into crisis over a voice that could be a recording and a breath of cold air at a drafty old theater. This isn't a game, Carol. It's not a movie or an X-Files episode or whatever you think it is, and it's not about you. I won't be a part of this any longer. Call me when you're ready to come home. Before Carol can say another word, Jenny turns away and storms down the sidewalk. Carol is shocked, the only person who didn't see this coming. She takes a step back and stumbles onto the steps behind her, landing in a seated position. They've never had a fight like this before. She sits and stews in her feelings for a moment, and then Claudia steps out of the apartment building carrying a heavy tote bag, her face stained with ruddy mascara. Carol? Carol gets up and tries to play it cool, wiping her eyes and brushing herself off.
Claudia, I'm so sorry.
I thought maybe you should have this. If she's really there, I mean. I do have unfinished business with my sister, but Erica, her unfinished business isn't with me. It's with this. Claudia hands the bag to Carol and steps back towards the apartment. Carol looks into the tote and retrieves a dense binder, hundreds of pages thick. The cover reads, Absence, Complete Book and Score by Erica Lawrence. Good luck, Carol. And if you do see her, please, tell her I miss her. Claudia retreats back into her building, leaving Carol alone to ponder the massive tome in front of her. A dejected Carol returns to her hotel room in Manhattan. Her suitcase is open on the bed, half empty. She closes it and moves it off the bed and collapses onto it. She gives a comical scream into her pillow. I think here we get a song where Carol vents about her complicated feelings and how she's so close to achieving a lifelong dream and validating her efforts as a paranormal investigator, but how she also knows that every hour she spends in New York is going to worsen the fallout with Jenny. By the end of the song, she gets up and regards 2 items on the hotel dresser. One is her cell phone, the other is the script to Absence. Steamed up, she picks up the binder, brings it to bed, and starts reading. The next morning, Carol presents her findings to Dana Wexford, recommending that the way to rid the Majestic Theater of Erica Lawrence's ghost is to put on a production of Absence, just for one night. Unsurprisingly, Dana balks at this, citing the incredible expense and impracticality of stopping one Broadway production and launching another for any reason, let alone because a ghost asks you to. She insists that Carol switch to Plan B and do whatever it takes to evict the ghost from the premises.
But we don't know what that'll do to her. What if we're damning her to eternal unrest?
You want your fee? Finish the job you were hired to do. Hell, if you can do it in time for us to open tonight, I'll even throw in a pair of box seats for you and your girlfriend.
Fiance. And she went home.
Do you want the tickets or not?
Fine. Yes, I'll do it. Give me 2 hours. Then you can call the cast and crew back to work.
Great. Clock's ticking. Carol sets up her equipment backstage, which is a combination of electronic ghost hunters gadgets and faux Wicca ephemera like incense and sigils. It's a clumsy mismatch of appropriated iconography, as if she's trying to cover all possible bases. She lit the candles and cleansed the space and whatnot, and is prepared to enact the final ritual that will theoretically banish the spirit of Erica Lawrence from the Majestic Theater, when she hears a soft, melodic whisper. Carol! Carol hears this and shivers. She winces and starts her incantation, getting only through the first few words of mangled Latin before she hears it again. Carol, help me. Carol's breath quickens, and she catches some movement in the candlelight, just the slightest glimpse of a slender, black-clad silhouette amongst the stage curtains. I need you, Carol. Carol squeezes her eyes shut, starts hyperventilating, then blows out the candle in front of her. We cut to black. Now it's that evening, and Carol is washing her face in one of the Majestic's bathrooms. We start in on an extreme close-up, but as we pull back, we see that the bathroom is crowded with well-dressed theater-goers at intermission. Carol's dressed up too, decked up in a slick suit with her hair in an updo. She returns to her opera box and takes a seat next to Claudia Lawrence, who's looking stunning in what's certainly a very expensive gown. Are you all right?
What? Yeah, all good. Just a long line at the bathroom.
Carol, it's not that I don't appreciate the surprise invitation, but and these are incredible seats.
It's the least I could do after what I put you through yesterday.
But is there a reason your partner isn't here tonight?
She left. Not like left. She just went home.
Claudia doesn't respond, forcing Carol to fill the silence by spilling her guts.
We had a fight. Our first fight, I think. Unless you count the thing about the harness, which I kind of do. Have you ever tried to surprise someone with a kinky getup and then end up having like an hour-long discussion redefining your sexual boundaries? That's not a fight, right? That's just communicating.
Claudia takes a long sip from her drink while Carol rattles on.
This, though, this is a fight for sure. See, Jenny's kind of a big deal in like supernatural circles, whereas I've always been kind of an underground DIY sort of gal, and I don't think she means to, but sometimes she can be so condescending about it. Like, not everybody was born into a rich family with connections to ancient armies against dark magic, right? Some of us got to work our way up from the streets. We got to seize every opportunity because we just don't get as many, you know? Anyway, to make a long story short, I was maybe a little overzealous in my pursuit of Erica's ghost, and Jenny doesn't even believe in her, so she ran off. And tomorrow I have to fly home and try to patch things up, even though I'm 100% right, and your sister is absolutely haunting this building as we speak.
After a beat, a bewildered Claudia finally responds. Wait, I thought the haunting was over. The theaters are open. Doesn't that mean you banished her?
That's what the news says.
But you just told me she's still here.
Yeah, do me a favor and keep that to yourself.
Now there are murmurs from the house below, the seats nearest to the stage. The curtains are rippling. There's noise and activity happening just behind them. And then they open unexpectedly. Actors and stagehands cling to them in a vain effort to keep the motorized curtains from opening as the stage turntable revolves to reveal the horrifying tableau on stage. The actress who plays the leading lady, Christine Daae, has been impaled on the bow of the Phantom's raft from the famous boat ride scene. Her organs splayed out across the stage. Cast, crew, and audience all panic at once, but their cries are drowned out by a woman's voice, vicious and angry.
I'm sorry to pause this, but there goes my plans of reacting to Are You Afraid of the Dark using Apple TV, because there are missing episodes. Episode 10 coming before episode 4. Oh, for God's... Oh, there's only 4 episodes available for season 1. Oh, and nothing for season 2? Please don't tell me most of this series is lost media anyway, carrying on.
Booming over the theater's PA. Dear management of the Majestic Theater, I tried to be civil. I tried being patient. I made my wishes perfectly clear and demonstrated the consequences of defiance. Now hear this. I want my show performed on this stage before a capacity audience, and each time anything else is played here, one member of your cast will die. Sincerely yours, the Phantom of the Opera. End of Act 1.
The Phantom was a woman.
This time, the Phantom is a woman.
The doctor was a woman in Frankenstein. The Phantom is a woman. The incels will be up in arms.
They'll be so pissed.
Are there Phantom of the Opera?
They'll suddenly care about Phantom of the Opera as soon as they find out the Phantom is a woman.
The Broadway incels. Well, I'm still reeling from the musical reveal. So I don't...
Honestly, I don't really care.
I love this Act 1, though. I love the expansion of Carol and Jenny, of course. This has been, I think, both of our like favorite couple ever since we put them together in House of Dracula. One of the things, so I knew that this was going to focus on Carol and Jenny because that's one of the things we had to clear up.
I wanted to ask you about that because they're both kind of under the umbrella that we agreed upon. Jenny is a mummy character. Carol is your creation for Invisible Man. But I had the idea of having it be the story of them investigating the Phantom together. And I wanted to do that in part because if I'm going to have people investigating the paranormal thing, it makes sense to start with characters that we have. And also because I'm invested in them a lot and because their love story in Dark Legion is a B plot, right?
We want to give them space.
And if we keep going in the way that we're going with, they're all like, Phantom of the Opera, The Mummy 3, blah, blah, blah. I didn't see really a lot of likelihood of, even in the Dark Legion, of them ever getting to be the lead of a story.
Right.
And I think they could both benefit from getting a little bit more focus time where they get the chance to be kind of messy. Because as I talked about in the previous episode, Jenny's hypercompetence is, I think, sort of sometimes a crutch that storytellers, namely well-intentioned male storytellers, tend to lean on to make a cool female character. I don't think that either of us did that on purpose.
Are you calling Jenny a Mary Sue?
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is I am calling out that in an effort to make sure that she's valuable to the team, even though she doesn't have powers or anything, we basically give her every possible skill. And I'm not taking those away from her. I just wanted to add some texture.
Well, you found a really fun dynamic with them, which hadn't occurred to me, but makes perfect sense, which is like, she's been doing the real shit.
Yes.
She's been, and Carol, like, I like that you fleshed out Carol's history a bit more, because in The Invisible Man, like, it is implied that, like, she's a ghostbuster, and sort of like, we don't know how real that is.
Right.
Like, we don't know if she's actually knows what she's doing or has ever seen a ghost.
Yeah,
like,
but even when she's going after Jack, he turns out not to be a ghost.
Exactly.
So I thought that the fun thing to do is to kind of play the idea that she is equivalent or slightly more successful maybe than what we have in our world as ghost hunters.
Right.
Which is essentially people who are willing to con themselves into believing that they're seeing ghosts.
Either
Apologies to anybody who thinks that they're real. I strongly don't.
Either complete con men or people that have conned themselves into
Yes,
believing.
and I didn't want to make Carol into a con artist.
No.
We like Carol, and she's an incredibly earnest person. It would be an assassination of her character.
Yes.
So I thought the thing to do would be to play with the idea that she has always dreamed of being in part of this world and always thought that she was inches from it, whether or not she was, and now she's in it, and that makes her antsy. She wants to stay in it. Whereas Jenny has been doing this her whole life, and then she fell in love and wanted to take a break. And so they find themselves at odds because the circumstances of their falling in love was an escape for one of them and an on-ramp for the other. They can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
So that creates an inherent conflict that kind of challenges their relationship in a way that it hasn't been challenged before. And since we're building to their wedding as the big climax, I wanted to put their relationship in some internally generated jeopardy.
Yeah, we have to test the relationship before we see that solidified. And that was when I planned the wedding for The Mummy Returns. I had to run that by you because at the time I knew you were going to use them in Phantom, and I was like, "Hey, I think I'm going to get them engaged. Is that okay?" And you were like, "Yeah,
well, that's perfect."
That's fine.
I'd actually written the first scene of that already by the time I actually started writing this before I started writing Werewolves of London. And I was like stoked, and I rewrote that first scene to be about like, oh, now the whole movie works better. So I'm so glad you did that. And like, not probably really a spoiler for anybody, I'm not breaking them up. I'm not going to break them. I'm not going to have spent all this time building up our big like Avengers 2 is a lesbian wedding and then not have the lesbian wedding. I'm not going to do that to y'all.
It makes me wonder because Phantom of the Opera is classically sort of a romance story and uses a lot of romance tropes and things like that. If maybe...
Yes, the romance is between Raoul and Christine, not Christine and the Phantom. Yeah, the Phantom, Eric, whichever you want to call him, his relationship with Christine is, pity-based, dominance-based, not particularly romantic, not particularly sensual. Yeah, the Phantom, as originally written, is not really a great guy.
Our romance here is between Jenny and Carol sort of rectifying things. I don't know where the rest of this is going, but that's kind of what it makes me wondering where, is there a romance angle in here? Might it be between them, or is this more just about the sort of fallout and coming back together? Might those two things kind of coexist?
Okay, so I wanted to cross-pollinate some ideas from Phantom with some stuff that we talked about here. I have remained really interested in one of the episodes that we recorded most recently after choosing our assignments when I was still kind of figuring out my Phantom thing. I knew I wanted to use Carol and Jenny as my leads, but Frankie Starker came on the show to talk about fandom and fan theories that they kind of postulated would happen out of the universe. And talking about how one idea would be that Carol has always been like out lesbian and is very sexually experienced, whereas Jenny is relatively prudish by comparison.
She's British.
Yes, and we assume that's obviously the Brixton Bloodhounds aren't prudish, but aren't prudish Brits. But we think of her as kind of tightly wound. Yeah, but not completely. I mean, she does sleep with Nick before the beginning of the Mummy.
Yep.
But just like maybe kind of vanilla. And especially when it comes to like specifically lesbian sex, doesn't know stuff. Now, granted, I also don't because I'm a straight man. So where that took me is into sort of kink, which fits really well into the Phantom of the Opera.
Sure.
So we've now established the idea that Carol kind of tried to try out some sort of BDSM stuff with Jenny and kind of got rebuffed about it. And that's going to come into play for sure, because we now have the Phantom of the Opera, who is a lady, and we know what the Phantom gets up to. So These are some of the reasons why Angela Robinson was going to be my director.
Yeah.
I was not going to tell a basically all lesbian romance involved movie without having a lesbian director. Or at least, we need somebody sapphic at the helm here, right?
I like the idea also of having a Phantom adaptation that is done through a female lens.
Yeah, because that's where the loudest part of the audience is, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, I can't do that lens myself, so I do my best. Other people can decide whether or not I was successful at that. But also between the BDSM thing and the really good, I really like Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. I think it's a really, really well done biopic, and the demographic target, and the nature of the story and who it's about. And Angela Robinson has produced a musical.
Oh, nice.
She used to do a web series called Girl Trash about a lesbian punk band. And then there was a musical episode that was a feature film. That's not very good. I did watch it. I don't think it's very good. I did go back and watch her directorial debut, Debs, a cult hit movie that is like sort of a cool, sort of queer Charlie's Angels movie. And that movie fucking rules. It's so funny. So I also knew she could do the humor of this. But yeah, that's why it has to be Angela Robinson.
Obviously, we're only at the end of Act 1, so we've got a lot to get to.
It is the longest act.
A new expectation has been created for me. And I think when I sort of paused at the end of the cold open and wasn't sure what I wanted to say, I think the only hesitation I have so far, I love the characters. I love the setup of the Phantom right now. I love the idea of them going to New York to be ghost hunters. I love that it's a fucking musical, you maniac. My concern is the setting the Phantom at a staging of Phantom of the Opera and making sure that that is meaningful. Because I do think there is the tendency, as we sort of talked about you trying to figure out if anyone had done that before, of maybe it feeling a little fan fiction-y because it's very neat, of like, what if we just, the Phantom of the Opera takes place in a theater. What if that was the theater the Phantom's happening at? Yes, but in order to elevate it beyond just the sort of gimmick aspect of it, I suppose, I would want it to be thematically relevant. And so that's like my new, I think that's, I don't know if it does or not, and maybe that's something you, as you've alluded to, you would want to add in a second draft. Maybe it's something that happens later on that you don't want to tell me about yet. But I think making the plot of the Phantom or the production of the Phantom be resonant with the new story that we're telling and have them sort of coexist and intertwine and deviate in ways that amplify each other is going to be what makes or breaks that premise.
All right, I definitely want to talk about that as we go because I don't know if I've really hit that target.
And that's like,
I did get very much wrapped up in wanting to tell a story about Jenny and Carol,
right,
and having to kind of have the faith that our listenership will find that exciting.
Yes.
I don't know how much this is going to appeal to people who want to see a remake of The Phantom of the Opera.
Right.
But as an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe, and as an
I want to see a actual adaptation of the novel. That's what I want to see. Just, I don't know, just adapt the novel and just give a new spin. I mean, sure, I said that if I were to do my own version, it would be set in 1860s Toronto at the Royal Lyceum. But still, that's just putting a new spin on things. It's making it Southern Ontario Gothic.
installment in the Dark Universe film franchise, I felt like this was a fun way to go.
Yes, and that is, I think, even if it doesn't do that, this is already a great installment, again, because now we have a musical episode. But also, like you said, it's characters that we love. It's funny. Everything is moving really fun. I'm just also trying to remember to be in film producer mode.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And I do think that is the kind of thing that maybe comes out in a draft 2 or a draft 3, right?
Yes.
That like if your core goal right now is to just to tell the story and make sure that the Dark Universe aspect story is fleshed out. That's what we want to do with our draft 2, or draft 1. But then in future drafts, okay, now how do we make all of the sort of strands here more tightly wound together?
Yes.
Right.
There's definitely room. Like, we always talk about these are just like, I kind of think that some of these songs are sort of ideas of songs. They're demos. They're all under 3 minutes long because this is still a podcast and I want to do that.
Yeah.
These scripts are ideas of scripts, right? They're pitches. They're 52 pages long.
Yeah.
And if we were to expand it once Universal picks it up to 100, 110 pages.
No,
there was a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, this is a musical. This is going to be 2 hours at least.
Absolutely, it should be.
Yeah.
All right, so since we're about halfway through this.
Oh, so that explains the length of this podcast.
Script, this feels like probably a good time for us to take a little break. So we're going to go and throw out to one of our other favorite podcasts out here who's swapped promos with us. And we'll be right back.
Star Trek has never been just one thing. The ideas we associate with Trek are flexible, shifting and changing over time, depending on who is writing it, and even who is watching.
In this sense, then, Star Trek itself is a mirror universe. Or to put it another way, Star Trek's real mirror universe is our universe.
In the Star Trek Mirror Universe podcast, we reflect on Star Trek, the various and often conflicting things it's had to say, and the mirror it holds up to our world.
Star Trek, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder.
The Star Trek Mirror Universe podcast, with special guest star Dylan Roth, available on iTunes, Spotify, and all good podcatchers.
Live long and prosper.
And we'll see you on the flip side.
Act 2. Act 2 opens with a big ensemble town meeting style number, led by Allison Janney's theater financier, Dana Wexford.
This is the farmer and the cowman should be friends.
Yes. It's the morning after the murder, and the press has questions, the union has questions, and the world is going nuts over the story of a supposed dead woman who has murdered 2 prominent Broadway stars and is holding the Majestic Theater hostage. Who was Erica Lawrence? What happened to her? Is this proof of life after death? Streams of Erica's absence demos skyrocket. Her name is on everyone's lips, her face on every screen. Since the banishment spell failed, Carol has not fessed up to lying about the ritual, Dana has no choice but to acquiesce to the Phantom's demands and begin rehearsals for absence using the surviving cast of Phantom of the Opera. Unwilling to squander the commercial opportunity, Dana sells tickets to the one-night-only engagement at an outrageous premium and sells out in under 20 minutes. Not to leave money on the table, Dana arranges to broadcast the performance live as a paid streaming event. She might actually end up making her money back on this disaster. Meanwhile, Carol is still waiting to hear back from Jenny. She was right after all. Doesn't Jenny owe her an apology now? No word. Carol returns to her hotel room after the press conference. She was up all night dealing with Dana and the press, and she could use a hot shower. She starts the water, and the bathroom fills with steam, revealing a hidden message on the mirror in cold moisture. Beneath the majestic. Midnight. Carol is startled at first, then fascinated. She presses her hand against the mirror, picks up some of the condensation, and then presses it against her face and neck. Carol arrives at Majestic at 1:45, and the cast is still rehearsing, exhausted and frustrated by the difficulty of the material. Absence would be an ambitious undertaking even with a reasonable amount of time to prepare, but the cast and crew have mere days. Everyone's too busy to mind Carol wandering the theater, until she finds a staircase leading down into a sub-basement. She follows the sound of Erica's voice, singing something minor, haunting, and sexy. Finally, she turns a corner into what feels like another world. It's a dark, smoky chamber that strongly resembles the Phantom's Lair set from the musical. Maybe it even is the set, or a version of it. A door slams shut behind her. She tugs on it, but it doesn't budge. There's nowhere to go but forward. Through the darkness, Carol can see a figure playing a piano, facing the far wall. She's dressed in a black and red bodysuit and cape, with straight black hair cut sharply at her chin. She looks over her shoulder at Carol, and we can see that she's wearing a white mask over her eyes and the right side of her face. This is the Phantom. She rises from the keyboard, which continues to play without her. As she moves around the room, the smoke and theatrical lighting make it hard to track her. Carol stands dumbstruck as the Phantom slips in and out of view. And then, the Phantom vanishes. Carol waits for a moment for her to reappear, then calls out,
"Hello? Erica?"
We see a pop of the Phantom's white mask appear behind Carol, who's pulled backwards towards a wall. The Phantom pulls Carol's arms up over her head and swiftly claps her wrists into manacles chained to the wall above. Carol is startled, terrified, and to her own quiet embarrassment, thrilled. It's like someone visited her dreams and took notes.
Oh no.
I've been hoping you would find me here, where we can spend some time alone, my dear. I feared you'd let your better angels keep you away, but you came, and now you'll stay. You tried so hard to keep your needs concealed, but it's your faith in me that makes me real. Do you feel my fingers trace the face behind
Ghosts work by stripper rules, huh? That's cute.
Stop talking. No more quips or deflection. I have questions for you, and I want concise, honest answers. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Why did you come down here?
I wanted to talk to you.
And now that you're here, what do you want?
I want to keep talking.
And is that all? There's nothing else you want from me?
Nothing else.
I asked for honest answers, Carol. Why did you just lie to me?
Because you're a killer.
Yes. And you couldn't be attracted to a killer, could you?
No.
Another lie. How many people has your fiance, Dr. Halsey, killed, Carol?
Well, that really depends on whether or not you count vampires as people.
Let's say I do. How many has she killed?
I don't know.
Has she killed in front of you?
Yes.
Has she killed for you?
Yes.
And don't you deserve someone who would kill for you?
Yes.
Louder.
Yes.
Louder.
Yes!
I want my name above the title of a Broadway smash. I want the glory and the laurels, and I want it to last. I want this whole fucking city reduced to ash. And in a flash, I'm in the very last original cast. I should have been Anais Mitchell, should have been the next big thing. I'm like Lin-Manuel Miranda, except I can actually sing. I've been buried 6 feet under, and I'm finally free. I can touch you, but you can't touch me. Can't touch me.
In that song, we have my friend Izzy Hodnett as the voice of the Phantom, and once again, Steph Sallow as the voice of Carol Lemley. We pull back from the scene as the Phantom runs her hands down the curves of Carol's body. Carol writhes and cries out with excitement, and though we don't see how far this goes, we know for certain that Carol's not going anywhere.
Ooh, the temptation of Carol. Okay, so there is a romance here.
Yeah, I want to clarify for the audience, the depiction of Carol and Phantom's sexual encounter is not an endorsement of chaining someone up in your basement just because they seem to be into it. Unless someone explicitly says to you, I want you to chain me up in your basement, do not chain anyone up in your basement. I feel like they should go without saying, but I don't know if you've been on the internet lately, but media literacy isn't really their thing.
I think our audience is familiar with the romance genre.
I think they are, right?
But, and erotica. I think our audience has a passing familiarity with erotica, probably.
Probably. I just want to clarify. Please
knowing
don't chain somebody up in your basement because you get the kind of the inkling that this might be their thing, and say, "Well, I heard it on a podcast and it was hot." Hopefully, in that
Dylan
situation,
told me to do it.
Don't do that. We hold on black for a bit, and then we cut abruptly to Jenny sitting in a coffee shop. Her phone rests on the table in front of her. She's just looking at it. It's daylight, the morning of the second day since her fight with Carol. She's been too angry to reach out. But after the news out of Broadway, she imagines that Carol's been too proud. But it's been 2 days. They've never been apart this long since they first met. She bites her lip, picks up her phone, and calls her fiancé. No answer. She leaves a voicemail. Carol, it's me. I just want to know that you're all right. Please call, or even just text me so I know you're safe. I love you. Dejected, she pockets her phone and rests her head in her hands for a moment. She looks back up as another figure sits down in the seat opposite her, holding a coffee for each of them. It's Gabby Utterson, private investigator, played by Zoe Kravitz.
You brought Gabby back. For listeners, Gabby was the main character of Jekyll X Hyde.
I needed Jenny to get some investigator-type details. I'm like, oh, shit, she knows Gabby. So it happened totally natural.
Clarify for me, what city are we in right now?
We're in New York.
Okay, Jenny hasn't, gone.
Well, yes, we'll see for sure in a minute. She has actually not gone home. She's still in New York.
And Jekyll Hyde was set in New York as well? Okay.
So Gabby sitting down is our first indication that she is in fact still in New York.
Okay.
It's Gabby Utterson, private investigator, played by Zoe Kravitz. She places a tablet between them and swivels it around to face Jenny.
So, bad news. It looks like Erica Lawrence really is dead. I found a death certificate, coroner's report, and some pretty gnarly autopsy photos.
Jenny flips through the files on the tablet in front of her, including some photos of a deceased Erica with the skin burned off and peeled off the right side of her face. Could these be forgeries?
In this day and age, anything's possible. I doubt it, though. Not only do the documents themselves check out, but their metadata is squeaky clean. That can be fake, too, if someone really knows what they're doing, but like I said, I doubt it.
There has to be an explanation.
You mean other than a failed Broadway composer has returned from the dead to wreak vengeance on the industry that buried her? Is that really so hard to believe? I mean, 2 years ago, I never would have bought it, but that was before I met a guy who brought a hitchhiker home from hell.
That's different.
So you've explained, and you know a lot more about this shit than I do. But isn't it possible that Carol's not the only one operating from a place of bias here?
What are you getting at?
He told me that Carol's problem is that she wants to believe. Maybe your problem is that you don't.
I'm a scientist.
Who studies magic. Why do you keep trying to apply hard and fast rules to something that is, by definition, complete fucking nonsense?
That's not...
Could it be because you've spent your whole life studying magic as if it was a science, and that admitting that it's not really knowable would mean your 3 PhDs don't necessarily make you smarter than everybody?
You are very insightful for someone who hasn't known me very long.
Yeah, well, you're a scientist. I'm a detective.
Gabby picks up her tablet and her coffee and gets ready to leave.
I hope everything works out with Carol. She sounds like a hoot. Oh, and Teresa would kill me if I didn't ask. Is there a chance you could get us seats to see the Dead Ladies musical? I'll knock $500 off your bill.
500? How much are you charging me?
I'll shoot you an email.
We catch up with Jenny out on the sidewalk, once again checking her phone. Still no response from Carol. Feeling a bit less rigid in her position, she decides to bite the bullet. She sends Carol a text that reads, "I'm sorry." And after a moment, she adds, "You were right." When she doesn't hear back right away, she decides to keep on sleuthing, this time on her own. Back in the Majestic sub-basement, Carol awakens alone in an ornate four-post bed, wearing Christine Daae's white nightgown. As she gets her bearings, she notices her wrists are still red from last night's cuffs and grins at the souvenir. She scans around her surroundings, a collection of props and set dressing that would almost convince her that she's really in the lair of the Phantom of the Opera. But then again, isn't she? The Phantom herself, however, is nowhere to be found. She's left a message, apparently, the word "stay" carved into the bedpost nearest to her. Seeing it makes her blush, and she briefly considers remaining in bed. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe guilt over enjoying an encounter with someone other than her fiancé, maybe impatience with the idea of sitting still for what could be all day, convinces her to go wandering the cavernous storeroom. She checks the door she came in through, which still won't budge. There's only one other door in the chamber, just as heavy as the first and just as locked. She studies the various artifacts that are scattered about, mostly artifacts from the Phantom musical. And finally, she asks aloud,
"Where the hell did that ghost put my phone?"
Jenny returns to Claudia Lawrence's apartment. Claudia's not home, so Jenny whips out her signature universal lockpick, a sonic screwdriver type device that she retains from her time at Prodigium, that has previously been seen in House of Dracula. Inside, Jenny explores the neat, orderly, modern smart home and is fixated once again on the flat screen picture frame dedicated to Erica. We get to see 2 images on this display. One is of Erica and Claudia in their 20s, sitting at a bar and making exaggerated, rude faces at the camera. The next is of Erica shaking hands with Dana Wexford in front of a piano in the Broadway rehearsal studio. They're both all smiles. Jenny has barely begun her search when she hears the rattling of keys on the other side of the apartment door. She quickly ducks into the coat closet, shutting it just before Claudia walks in and, thank goodness, drops her coat onto the couch. "Okay, Google, turn on the lights and display my news alerts on the living room TV." Google beeps and complies, and headlines about the Majestic Theater appear on screen. Through the crack in the closet door, Jenny sees Claudia walking towards the far end of the apartment. She pries off a pair of high-heeled boots and steps into the bathroom, leaving the door open. Thinking she has the opportunity to slip out of the apartment, Jenny slowly pushes the closet door open, only to knock a heavy fur coat off its hanger, causing a cascade of noisy wardrobe malfunctions. Jenny holds her breath as Claudia emerges and looks around the apartment. To Jenny's surprise, Claudia asks, "Erica? Erica, is that you? I was hoping you might come see me. Can you come out?" Jenny cups her hand over her own mouth, trying not to make a sound. Claudia stands in front of Erica's picture frame and talks to her there. "Okay, well, whatever you're up to, I want you to know that whatever you've become, you're still my sister, and I love you." With shoulders slumped and eyes full of tears, Claudia slowly retreats to the bathroom, this time closing the door behind her. Jenny exhales and slips out, using the universal lockpick to fasten the door behind her. Outside, Jenny once again checks her phone for word from Carol. No response, no read receipt. Fuck it. Jenny walks with purpose down the Midtown Manhattan streets in the direction of the hotel. Jenny arrives at the hotel room and finds it empty. She has a look around. The suitcase with Carol's belongings in it is still here, but there's no sign of her or where she might have gone. There is one odd thing, though. The door to the bathroom is closed, and the light's been left on. Jenny cautiously approaches the door. She hears the toilet flush, prompting her to throw open the door, rush inside, leading with her knee, which makes contact with, ow, my balls. Jack Griffin, the Invisible Man, voice of John C. Reilly, cries out in pain and collapses, invisibly, onto the bathroom floor, bashing his head on the edge of the sink on his way down. "Jack, oh my God, are you all right?"
Okay, I like that, having 2 kinds of phantoms. I mean, the Invisible Man you can call him a phantom. I mean, if 100 Years of Horror could cover the Invisible Man films and the Phantoms episode, then yeah, let's just call him a phantom.
Jenny holds an arm out, and we see her struggle as she accepts the weight of her invisible friend and helps him get to his feet.
I've had worse, but not recently.
Once he's no longer leaning on her, Jenny jabs at the air, and we hear her fist slap against Jack's arm. Where the hell have you been? Carol's been worried sick about you all year.
Man alive, Jenny. Figured I would keep my distance if this was the greeting I could expect. I've been laying low.
You could have called. You're not the inaudible man.
Yeah, well, truth be told, I've barely spoken a word for the past 8 months. Haven't wanted to.
As Jack tells his story, we cut between scenes of what he's been up to since the events of the Dark Legion House of Dracula, beginning with his torture at the hands of Dracula's vampire horde.
You don't know what it was like for me at Castle Dracula before you rescued me. I was beaten, drained for hours on end. They didn't let me sleep or pass out. They couldn't see the pain on my face, so they wanted to hear me scream. And I did. I screamed for a day and a half. I wanted to die. When Carol saved me, I wasn't sure I could go on. And by the time we got back to our base in Transylvania, I only knew that I wanted to be alone.
Don't let them see you bleed. Don't let them see you cry. That's what they always said to me. It only meant that I'd run and hide.
Is this Joe Stando?
Yes.
Now, if I had the strength to show it, I wouldn't even know how. So I disappear and spend my days here, alone in the crowd. When I was unremarkable, it used to hurt so bad. Now I look back at those days like they're the best that I ever had. 'Cause I'd rather be nobody than be the man that I am right now, crippled by fear as I waste away here, alone in the crowd.
Amazing job, Joe. Give it up for Joe Stando, everyone. I stowed away on a flight back to the States and landed in New York. I thought I would go home, but home to what? I don't really have a life anymore. So I thought I'd take advantage of being nobody for a change and go somewhere I always wanted to go but could never afford to visit. Broadway.
We see, sorta, Jack sneaking his way into the Ambassador Theater to see a performance of Chicago.
I've always loved show tunes. They've helped me through some hard times in the past, and I thought maybe unlimited access to every musical in town might lift my spirits. And it did, for a while. I was sneaking into a different show every night and then sleeping in the dressing rooms. I saw every show running. Except Dear Evan Hansen.
Why not that one?
I wasn't really in the mood for a treacly musical about suicidal teenagers.
Carol thought it was because the show sucked.
Well, that too. Anyway, somewhere around my fourth lap through the circuit, the novelty started to wear off. I started getting sloppy.
We see Jack accidentally push a costume rack too close to an incandescent light, starting a small fire.
Bored.
Jack tears apart the seats of a luxury box with a pocket knife.
And just plain mean.
Leah Michelle opens the door to her dressing room to find stacks of heavy books inside and proceeds to throw a massive tantrum.
I wasn't getting better. I was just killing time. Even after you and Carol arrived, I still didn't feel like talking to anyone. I thought about it a few times, but I just couldn't.
We reprise the moment from earlier in our story when Carol and Jenny felt a breath behind them while exploring the majestic theater. Then we revisit Carol celebrating on the sidewalk after looking up Erica's death, Remember that stumbling passerby? What actually happened was that pedestrian bumped into Jack, and then Jack set him back on his feet before he hit the ground.
I thought I'd just try and keep you safe without giving myself away, but I couldn't manage that either.
Finally, we see Carol wandering the majestic sub-basement. From Jack's point of view, a few steps behind, the door to the Phantom's door snaps shut between them, and Jack can't make it budge. Now we're back at the hotel. Jenny is seated in a chair, facing the indentation on the side of the bed.
Now Carol's in trouble, and without knowing where you went off to, all I could do is wait here and hope you'd come back eventually.
Where is Carol?
She's with her. The one calling herself the Phantom of the Opera. She's got Carol locked in some kind of dungeon beneath the theater.
Good Lord. If I'd only listened. Jenny rolls a thought around in her head. Wait, if all those unexplained happenings around Broadway were actually you, then the Phantom had nothing to do with them, which means...
She's not what she says she is. I got a real doozy of a story to tell you, Doc.
Jenny walks up to the bed next to Jack and flips open the suitcase, revealing a hidden compartment with a thigh holster, a knife, and a pistol. You can explain on the way. She cocks the pistol and checks the chamber. We've got theater tickets. End of Act 2.
And the Jack reveal has been made.
That was the main thing. You and the audience may have already figured this out by the fact that we didn't stop dead when Jack showed up. That was the main thing I needed to clear with Dalton before I could write this.
Yeah, so that was basically all I knew, was when we were doing our Phase 2 slate, you said, I have an idea for Phantom, and you had the title Phantom of the Opera, and you were like, where Jenny and Carol go to investigate, these happenings, but there's not really a Phantom, it's just Jack.
And I realized that wasn't really a movie.
Well, and that was my concern going into this. And I think, that kind of colored the feedback I had earlier, that expectation of like, well, the Phantom needs to matter here. Because my concern going into this episode was that if it was just a Jack movie, an Invisible Man movie in the guise of Phantom of the Opera, it would actually be too much of a rug pull for the audience.
Right.
Because this isn't like, we've compared this, I think, when we were talking about it, to Iron Man 3. And the reveal that the Mandarin isn't actually even a real villain. It's just an actor, right? But the movie's not called The Mandarin.
Right. I mean, people were pissed enough as it was about maybe the greatest twist in the history of the MCU.
It was great. But to advertise, we're going to do a Phantom movie when there's so many Phantom fans, and then have there not actually be any sort of Phantom of the Opera.
I couldn't do that.
It seemed like a big swing that I was like, well, you're going to have to really sell this, But this is a Phantom movie. We do have a Phantom of the Opera, even if it's revealed that a lot of the stuff we attributed to the Phantom was actually Jack. I think that's a nice balance. And I think earlier when I was like, well, we got to make this Phantom stuff matter then, is because I was expecting there to just be this rug pull that like, oh, well, it's Jack the whole time. And now this is actually a Jack movie. And so all this Phantom stuff has just been set dressing. It's just been, kind of like, well, it's not a Phantom movie, so I guess we'll set it at the Phantom musical and make it a musical.
I realized very quickly that was not going to work.
Yes, and so all this stuff in Act 2 with the Phantom and Carol, I really like, because I think that it accomplishes the thing of tying our main story to the Phantom musical, because we're essentially getting a recreation on the Phantom sets in a very different context. And that's what these remakes and requels and stuff are all about, right? It's about revisiting iconography through a new lens. And that's what your main story is doing. It's a kinky lesbian lens, while in the shadow of the original Andrew Lloyd Webber production. And I think that is fun and substantial. Like at that point, I don't necessarily think, we talked about the music box at the beginning. I don't think we need to necessarily bring the music box back. It would be nice, I think, still, if that opening scene, we could just find some resonance to the scene that happens. But I think my main concern, which was that the Phantom was going to all end up being incidental for a Jack reveal, is allayed. I no longer have that worry. Although I don't know what's going to happen in Act 3. But I
promise you it's going to be in Act 3. I know I said that last time. I'm so confident in this third act, Dalton.
I love that.
I will, if this turns out to be another situation where you're like, I think there's another 20 minutes in the movie, not only will I eat my hat, because I just don't believe that'll happen, I'm not going to say I will quit the show, because I don't want to quit the show, and I'm not going to. I love doing this. I'm going to bankrupt myself doing the show, and also probably kill you in the process, because I love doing it so much. But I'm really confident in it. I really hope you're going to like it.
I am going to say, and this is not quitting the show type criticism, I think your Act 2 is perfect for this podcast episode, but if we did a movie, there would have to be a lot more that happens.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
We would need more rising action.
But in the past, I think that I have focused so much on having all this character stuff happen in the second act that I don't leave enough room in my head for what the conclusion is. I don't do the thing you talk about doing, which is figure out what is the end of my movie? How do I get there? And so in this case, I really focused on here's where I want to get to for the climax of the movie. And because we don't want this thing to be 98 pages long, here's what I need to do in Act 2 in order to set it up.
Now, here's the sort of the genre that we're working in here kind of writes your end of Act 2 for you in a way. And I don't know, maybe this is something that's going to happen in Act 3, but in general, this sort of romance love triangle plot has a sort of built-in end of Act 2, which is when the couple is at their lowest point, right? There would be some sort of explosion between Jenny and Carol. There would be something that drives Carol more to the Phantom. You know, like obviously right now our pieces are structured right now, so that can't really happen.
I surprised myself by having, as initially when I outlined it, I'm like, oh, obviously Jenny and Carol have to have their big, in a rom-com or in a romance or anything like that, that the A couple has to have their big blow up at the end of Act 2. And I'm like, that's actually not where I want to have it right now in this story. Okay. However, especially if we want this to work for people who have not seen all these previous movies and we want to establish this couple best, somehow pushing so much of that second half of Act 1, drawing that out long enough. Like, for instance, I would like to get to know the actors who we slaughter. Sure. And maybe slaughter more of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, Act 2 is all about rising action, right? We got to have some more bodies pile up.
I wanted to do the idea that I wrote their names in there, but I can't pronounce all of them because I want to use the actual closing cast of Phantom of the Opera as the closing cast. Like, John Riddle is the Raoul right now.
Love that.
I know nothing about him other than he has that job. Congratulations. But being the closing cast of a musical like this is a thankless job. It's not, unless you're like the person they've brought in to attract people for the final closing.
Yeah.
But the end of Phantom is its own event, right? 35 years. So my understanding, I'm not a huge Broadway nerd, is that nobody here is like someone who's about to get a fucking Marvel movie or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I would love to include them, and that's also maybe a little wink at the fact that whenever they do movie adaptations and musicals, they never fucking bring the people who can sing the material.
Okay, well, I've been putting together a list of directors I think could do a Phantom of the Opera adaptation. Not so much, I haven't really been looking at actors, but I do have a list of potential directors. First up, Robin Lau, I don't know how that last name is pronounced, Lough, and Jonathan Munby, who did the film stage production of The Merchant of Venice from 2016 for the Globe Theatre, the former filming of the latter directing from the stage. Very fantastic. Had Jonathan Pryce as Shylock. I highly recommend it. Another choice, Steve Shelln, who directed the Ben-Hur miniseries from 2010. So you get some period drama adventure. Next up, we have Matt Reeves, who of course directed The Batman. We have Frank Coraci, who directed Around the World in 80 Days back in 2004. That was an action adventure comedy, but I honestly just like his cinematography style. Chris Sanders, of course, directed The Call of the Wild back in 2020. A very good adventure film. Tom Hooper, who directed Les Miserables in 2012, epic period musical, and of course we have Amy Leach, who directed the 2020 or 2022 production of Oliver Twist for National Theatre. That was really, really good. The cast was very much primarily disabled. There was a lot of non-white actors because, it's the stage and all. Don't worry about that sort of thing. Oliver was deaf and mute. Dodger was deaf. We had a female Fagin. Rose Brownlow, she was hard of hearing. Bjorn Sykes had something wrong with his vocal cords, so he insisted upon using sign language. Mrs. Bumble required a wheelchair. It's always about trying something new. but still adapting the story. Anyway, let's carry on.
Yeah.
I
think that's really fun.
I've also done that because I don't know if Annabelle Wallace or Darcy Carden or, anybody else in this can sing. And I didn't even really ask my cast that I brought in. I was like, do you want to do it? And everybody's fucking delivered. So I'm really
Everyone's
excited.
done great. All the people you have singing are incredible. And I love all this. I will say your act 2 did give me another idea, which I believe Teresa, right? Played by Rachel Bloom.
Yes, it was killing me that I could not find a place for her to be in this because Rachel Bloom is famously the person who did an entire TV show worth of music episodes.
Well, also, she needs to meet Carol. We need to have Rachel Bloom and Darcy Carden sharing the screen together in our dark universe at some point. Maybe if it's not in this movie, Teresa and Carol need to meet.
Yeah, here's the thing, is that because Gabby worked perfectly, very naturally as like the kind of cameo that I always want to see, which is I need a certain purpose filled. And the most obvious person to fill this purpose happens to be a cameo from a character from a previous film. I would have had to invent somebody. I would have had to do a lot of sleuthing, and it would have been really, especially in the podcast, it would have been boring, right? And also not really what she does exactly. Being an archaeologist isn't entirely unlike being a detective, but it was like, oh, would be really handy if like she could hire a PI for this. Oh, wait, she knows one. Mm-hmm. She happens to be the only surviving character in our dark universe who knows this person.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Well,
and then I get to have a look, but I don't know how to get Teresa in there. We don't need a lawyer.
Well, we'll get them together eventually. And of course, when we cut to Gabby for the first time, we will pause for theater applause, just like Matt Murdock in No Way Home.
Because everybody who's going to see the Phantom of the Opera is definitely their favorite one. Is definitely the fucking Incredible Hulk of our dark universe. Jekyll.
Oh, hey, Mandy Patinkin. He'd make an excellent Phantom of the Opera. Yes, I know he's 73, but he's still an excellent actor, and I have nothing against the idea of an animated Phantom of the Opera adaptation. I've seen one. I have one on DVD, for God's sake. But he's just really got one of those excellent voices.
Collects high.
They're gonna pop for Gabby Utterson. It's
gonna be a big deal. All right. So do we want to roll into Act 3? Anything else you want to talk about?
I think we can roll into Act 3. Let's you're talking up this Act 3. Let's see what you got.
Hope I haven't fucked this up. Let's go.
I mean, if there's another musical number, then it's enough.
Act 3. The doors have just opened at the Majestic Theater for the one-night-only performance of Absence by Erica Lawrence. Guests file into the house, and from their dress, we're definitely looking at the upper crust of Broadway theatergoers. We catch a glimpse of a few celebrities in the crowd, among them Lin-Manuel Miranda, Neil Patrick Harris, and Padma Lakshmi. Dana Wexford settles into her luxury box, clearly stressed out of her mind. She lights up a cigarette, and when an usher approaches her about it, she scares him off at a glance. Jenny pulls up in front of the theater in a cab, with Jack invisibly in tow. The entrance is guarded by security personnel scanning tickets, but there's also a crowd of people huddled around to take pictures and otherwise bask in this bizarre moment in Broadway history. Jenny may be able to pick any lock, but that's not going to help if she can't get near the stage door. How the hell are we going to get in there?
Wait for my signal, then run over to the backstage door. I'll get inside and meet you there.
What's the signal?
You'll know it when you see it.
The camera follows the invisible Jack as he muscles through the crowd, snatching various articles of outerwear from people as he goes. By the time he emerges, he's grabbed a black coat and with a fur collar, a fluffy black hat, and a huge pair of cat's eye sunglasses. Jack puts these items on, hunches down real low, and yells into the crowd,
"Look, everyone, it's Liza Minnelli!"
The crowd goes crazy, turning their attention towards the decoy, who now...
Oh yes, Alice Cooper. He'd also make a pretty good Phantom.
Naturally disappears by the time anyone gets close. The fans find only the coat, hat, and glasses and are left wondering whether or not they just watched a Broadway icon melt or something. Jenny seizes the chance to get close to the backstage door. Moments later, it clicks open for just long enough for Jenny to slip in, unnoticed by security. Below, in the Phantom's lair, the very bored Carol is sitting at the piano working out how to play The Point of No Return. That's a song from Phantom. She's not very good at piano, but she's had nothing else to do all day, so it's coming along. Then when she mangles a chord transition for probably the 5th time, she vents her frustration by plopping her head down on the keyboard. While she's looking down, she notices that this piano, a baby grand, has an electrical cable running down the length of its pedal brace. She follows it and finds a small black box planted on the underside of the piano, about the size of an old CD player. She feels around and finds a button. She presses it, and the piano starts playing itself, its keys bouncing up and down. Carol stumbles backward away from the instrument as it rips into You Can't Touch Me, the Phantom's song from earlier. This turns out to be a reprise of the number as the Phantom reemerges from the shadows and Carol confronts her about her discovery. I did not have time to write a song for this, so we're just going to do it through dialogue. I commanded you to stay in bed.
Yeah, that was hours ago. Unless it's been days. I don't know because you hid my phone somewhere.
You don't need it anymore. You're mine now. Nothing outside these walls matters.
Then where have you been this whole time? Where do you go during the day? Back to hell?
No more questions. We have only 20 minutes before curtain, and you're going to spend it on the edge of madness. Put these on behind your back and stand facing the bed. The Phantom tosses Carol a pair of handcuffs. She looks at them.
If I can't touch you anyway, then what do we need the cuffs for?
You don't like them? Carol slinks towards the Phantom, who, as always, is obscured by fog, darkness, and oscillating lights.
Oh, I love them. But any old mortal girl can chain me up. I want the full ghost experience. I want to feel the cold where your body should be. I want to lick you and taste death.
Carol now stands only an arm's length from the Phantom, and she reaches her hand towards the left side of her face, the unmasked side. The Phantom flinches, backs away slightly.
Please.
Just before Carol's hand can touch the Phantom's face, the Phantom grabs Carol's wrist. A moment later, Carol uses her other hand to clap one half of the handcuffs onto the Phantom's wrist.
Aw, man.
Carol lifts her leg and plants a hard thrust kick into the Phantom's chest, knocking her back into the piano.
I was really hoping you were dead.
The Phantom leans back against the piano and struggles to her feet. How long have you known?
Not long. You had me so willing to suspend my disbelief and just let my fantasies unwind. You shouldn't have left me here alone for so long. I was bound to find something suspicious eventually. I am a paranormal investigator, you know.
Ha! That's a laugh. You're a fangirl, a groupie. I knew Wexford would have to hire someone to come down here and look into the haunting. That's why I set all this up. I didn't think I'd get this lucky. A doe-eyed lesbian whose most frequent porn search is succubus.
You went through my phone, is that it?
Eventually, but it was hardly necessary after you pointed me in the right direction. You have a real problem with oversharing. Do you tell everyone you meet about your marital problems? Something clicks for Carol, and she lets her guard down for a moment while she admonishes herself.
Son of a...
The Phantom uses his opportunity to sweep Carol's legs, knocking her to the ground. The Phantom stands over Carol and pulls off her mask. It's not Erica, it's Claudia. Get up. We don't want to miss the overture. Did you know it was Claudia?
I did not. So Aubrey Plaza, we've only seen her actually in photos.
She's not in the movie.
Oh, man. But I love Aubrey Plaza.
Me too. But I realized it wasn't going to be her. And I thought it'd be really funny to advertise Aubrey Plaza in this movie and have her appear on posters and have her do these like clips and interviews and have it be like her voice sometimes. And she's not actually in the film.
That might be a frustrating rug pull for the audience.
Yes.
But I do like the casting of Aubrey Plaza and Selma Blair as sisters. That's good.
Yes. I wanted Aubrey Plaza as my Phantom from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then only later realized that I actually wanted it to be that I wanted to swap it and have it be Claudia, and that Claudia was going to be Selma Blair. And the only other way to do it was if I had Aubrey Plaza and Jenna Ortega, and she's too young for me to do that. I know that she's of age and could choose to do this. I don't feel comfortable sexualizing Jenna Ortega to this extent.
But by the time the movie gets made,
yes,
she will probably done several sexy roles by then, and maybe that will work.
So, and even though it would turn out that Jenna Ortega is not even in the movie, I felt weird about doing it. You guys can tell me how you feel about it, but I'm a 33-year-old man, and she's too young for me to write this kind of horny stuff about.
I do want to clarify, Carol didn't know that the Phantom was corporeal until the handcuff thing.
Yes.
I thought there was a time, though, when they first got together that, like, wasn't there a line about her tracing her curves or something?
Oh, the idea is that the Phantom, like, sort of one of these ghost rules where you can walk through a ghost and a ghost would just kind of be a puff of smoke. But if a ghost wants to like manipulate objects or people, a ghost can do that.
So she can touch Carol, but Carol can't get one on her with the handcuffs. Exactly. Because she could just usually phase through it.
Yeah. Okay. So the idea is that Carol, since she's bound up anyway, didn't have the opportunity to try to touch the Phantom during their first encounter, but was kind of taking it on sort of the ghost rules that she's given, that the Phantom is just basically a pair of hands and lips or whatever, as it turns in a tangible sense.
Probably a soft tracing of the curves would feel like a ghostly chill.
Exactly.
You know? So did they fuck?
I would say yeah.
Okay, so they fucked.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some possible infidelity going on here, though we don't know the
I want to keep it vague because I don't want people getting too mad at Carol.
Okay.
Obviously, everyone in their own relationship has their own rules about this stuff. We're gonna address it, kind of, but I'm not going to make it too explicit about what happened between the two of them. I think it's up to interpretation and how far the director wants to go with it. We don't really have anything too explicit happen on screen in my script. At the very least, it was like like a lot of sort of teasing and playing with hands.
Okay, when we're done, after I see how much is dressed, I'll probably have a lot of monogamous versus non-monogamous thoughts about this and how I feel it plays into their relationship.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it.
We cut back now to Jenny and Jack rushing around backstage, dodging around the cast and crew, who are doing their final preparation for the show. Jenny and Jack hurry down the stairs and find the heavy door of the Phantom's lair. Jenny tries to push it open once, and then when that doesn't work, she pulls out her pistol and fires 2 bullets near the handle, then kicks the door in. It's the Phantom's lair all right, but there's no one inside. But too late. Claudia must have taken his somewhere else.
Hey, didn't you bring your weird lockpick thingy?
I did. I just really wanted to shoot something.
Well, I'd be careful with that down here if I were you.
Why's that?
Because of what's behind door number 2.
Jack leads Jenny over to the chamber's other door, the one Carol couldn't open earlier. This time Jenny uses her lockpick to click the door open. It leads to a long tunnel, hundreds of feet long, lined from end to end with explosives. Claudia, once again wearing the Phantom mask, drags Carol up a stairway with a knife to her back. The pair arrives at the entrance to a VIP box. Box 5, naturally. That's the one from the play. As the orchestra starts tuning up and the house lights dim. Inside, Dana Wexford is settling in alongside a handful of other well-dressed Broadway financiers. All in the space of a few seconds, Claudia throws Carol into the room, then slashes the throats of 2 of the guests. She slices through each esteemed audience member with ease, ripping open guts and splattering blood all over Carol's white gown. Dana, the box's last surviving guest, rushes to her feet and backs away from the killer, but there's nowhere for her to run. She has her back to the balcony railing. What the hell is this? This is justice, Ms. Wexford. Justice for Erica Lawrence and every other young talent you and your friends have chewed up and spit out. I don't know what you think happened, but I was her patron, one of many. I encouraged her work, nurtured it. Too much. You let her believe she was so close to it all paying off. She bet her whole life on it. And then, one day, all at once, you all lost interest. Some hot new composer turned your heads, or maybe you just decided she didn't have the goods after all. But she was left with nothing to show for her years of work. And you all got richer off someone else's talent instead. What do you want from me? An apology? We made an investment. It wasn't working out. We moved on. It happens. This is a business. Oh, I know it is. Which is why I created the Broadway hype machine of the century. A ticket so hot it brought out every big name in the business. They were all here. Everyone who ever dangled stardom in front of my sister's face. Everyone who stole her spotlight. The whole world is going to see Erica's masterpiece. And the moment it's over, everyone in this theater is going to die. From the floor, Carol looks up in shock at Claudia. Claudia is staring a hole through Dana. Except you, Dana. Really? That's right. You don't get to see my sister's show. You die before the opening number. Claudia rushes forward and buries her blade in the side of Dana's neck, then rips it forward through her throat. She falls to the floor, soaking the carpet in blood.
R.I.P. Alice and Janney.
Back in the sub-basement, Jenny and Jack examine the explosives.
Do you know how to disarm them?
Yes, but they're each rigged with an individual trigger. It could take hours to deactivate them all.
Are they on a timer?
No, it looks like they're all tuned to the same manual trigger.
Claudia's probably planning to push the button the moment the show's over.
Jenny reaches to disassemble one of the explosives, but stops her hand before it gets too close.
What is it?
They've got some sort of tamper-proofing. Looks like there's a proximity sensor on the casing. There's a fair chance it'd detonate the moment I laid a hand on it.
Like a motion sensor?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna try something. Tell me how to open this.
Jenny walks Jack through the process of removing the explosive casing, and Jack's hunch pays off. His invisible hands don't set off the sensor. Once he's disarmed one explosive, Jack says,
Go get Carol. I'll stay here and keep working. If you can't stop Claudia from hitting that button, maybe I can at least reduce the damage.
But you'll be killed.
Yeah, well, no big loss there, right?
Jenny looks back over her shoulder at the exit, then down the long tunnel full of tiny red lights. We're getting married. Carol and I.
I know.
Promise me you'll be there. Carol wants so badly to see you again.
You won't see me, but I'll be there. One way or the other.
Jenny nods at him, takes a breath, and starts running. Back at the box, Claudia and Carol sit facing the stage, watching the play in progress. Claudia has her arm around Carol's shoulder and the edge of her knife pressed to her neck. Claudia's taken off the mask again.
So, now I know why you did it, but how?
As Claudia explains her exploits, we get flashes of the story from her perspective. So much of this theater is wired for automation and remote control, and I've been jacked into it for weeks while I've been setting up my own little theater in the basement. That's how no one saw me kill Raoul as a stagehand. The next show you took me to, I snuck backstage, killed the leading lady, planted her body on the stage turntable during the interval, and was back up here before you noticed I was gone. Didn't matter how quickly the crew found her body. I only had to wait for people to return to their seats, remotely trigger the curtain, and trigger the turntable so everyone could admire my work. I hacked your hotel too, so I could break into your room and leave that little invitation on your mirror with a little store-bought laundry detergent. I was even able to throw your fiancée off my scent and do a little play acting for her after she set off the cameras I set up in my apartment. You may believe in the supernatural, but a cell phone is as good as a magic wand in the modern world, provided you know the right spells.
And what about your grand finale?
A bomb, about 60 of them actually, rigged up under the theater, enough to take out the whole block. Bad news for the crowd of the Lion King.
Where do you plan to be when that happens?
Right here, next to you.
How romantic.
We did have fun though, didn't we?
It was fun before I knew I was just part of your convoluted revenge scheme.
Conning you into believing I was Erica's ghost was part of the convoluted revenge scheme. I spent months setting everything up. From the moment those unexplained incidents started happening around Broadway, I had it all worked out. After years of hating myself for letting her down, I finally had a way to use my skills, my talents to do something for my sister's memory. But spending my last full night on Earth playing out your sexual fantasy, that's the first thing in ages I did just for me. There's a quiet moment, and Carol sees a tear roll down Claudia's cheek.
You know, in the Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom has a change of heart. He lets his rival live and lets his prisoner go free.
Claudia looks straight ahead at the performance on stage. She puts her phantom mask back in place, covering her tears. Not in this one. From behind them, a voice and the click of a pistol. No, in this one, the Phantom dies. Jenny pulls the trigger, but at that same moment, Claudia whirls around, nicking Carol's neck and slicing at Jenny's hand. Jenny drops her gun. Her shot misses, but the sound startles the performers in the audience, and everyone below runs for the nearest exit. Carol rolls onto the floor. She presses her hand against her neck to keep from bleeding, but despite the pain, she is positively beaming to see her fiancé.
Jenny!
Carol, run!
I won't leave you. And also, I think if I move, I might run out of blood.
Claudia holds her knife in one hand, pointed at Jenny. In the other, she holds up her cell phone, displaying a single large button. It doesn't matter. No one's getting out of here alive. In the tunnels below, invisible hands hurry to disable another bomb, but there are still dozens remaining. Back in box 5, fuck you for spoiling my sister's premiere.
Hey.
From the floor, Carol kicks hard against Claudia's shin, buckling her knee and spoiling her balance. While Claudia's thumb is momentarily away from the button on her phone, Jenny swiftly pulls the knife from her holster and throws it clean through Claudia's hand. The phone drops to the floor next to Carol.
Be nice to my fiancé.
Carol scrambles to grab the phone off the floor. Claudia readies her blade for a plunging blow, but while her attention is directed at Carol, Jenny charges and tackles her at full speed. With a roar, Jenny and Claudia tumble together over the balcony railing into the house 20 feet below.
Jenny!
Carol pulls herself up to the edge of the balcony and looks over the edge. The house below is mostly abandoned, with the audience having already made their escape. That means Claudia and Jenny fell directly onto the hard, thin tops of the theater seats nearest to the stage. Claudia broke some of Jenny's fall, but they're both banged up from the impact. Claudia pulls Jenny's knife out of her hand, crawls into the aisle, struggles to her feet, and starts limping towards the stage. Jenny takes a bit longer to recover her senses and find the blade that Claudia dropped on their way down, but she's not in quite as rough shape, so once she's standing, she can move a lot faster. She climbs on top of one of the seats and jumps from chair to chair like rocks on a stream, and lands on the stage at the same time as Claudia. The two are face to face again. Now, here is where ideally I'd love to have a big climactic musical number in which the three main characters each get some solo time and we overlap their melodies and we have a tightly choreographed knife fight between Jenny and Claudia, sort of a dance finale. However, whereas most musicals are written over the course of months or years, I did this one about 6 weeks, during which I moved apartments and had the flu. So we're going to have to use our imagination.
Yes.
There is still one more song.
Hum to yourself in your heads at home.
Yes. Or, $5,000 on our Patreon. Jenny has the upper hand in their duel, being both more experienced and less injured. But Claudia knows how to put Jenny off balance. Maybe I should thank you. I might not have had such a hold on Carol if you'd been a little better in bed. Shut up! You've been together for how long? A year? You don't even know how she likes to be touched. Jenny makes a wild swing and Claudia dodges, slashing Jenny's forearm as it passes her. Jenny drops her blade and then takes a punch to the jaw. She falls to the floor. As Claudia advances, Jenny slides backwards across the stage, which is marked with thin strips of black tape to indicate the intended locations of certain actors or props. She's looking for something. How does it feel to be dumped for a dead woman? Jenny reaches for her hip holster, which no longer holds her knife or her pistol, but isn't totally empty. She inches back another few inches and keeps her eyes on Claudia's feet. When the moment is right, she retrieves her super lockpick and points it at the ceiling above the audience, at the chandelier. I'll tell you in a minute. Her lockpick whirs, and a safety latch holding the gimmicked chandelier clicks open. The massive bronze and glass light fixture slides down a wire towards the stage with the full force of gravity. Claudia looks up and has enough time to scream before it lands on top of her with a massive crash.
Nice. Perfect. Love it.
Jenny gets up from where she's rolled, just out of the way, and regards the wreckage. Claudia is pinned underneath the shattered chandelier, limbs broken, but face up and still wearing her phantom mask. Carol, having finally made her way down from box 5, limps up next to her. Jenny puts an arm under hers to take some of her weight. Carol has torn off a scrap from the skirt of her nightgown and is pressing it against the wound on her neck. She has Claudia's phone in her other hand.
Are you okay?
I'll be fine. How do you feel?
More than a little stupid. At least I got this away from Claudia.
Below, Claudia looks up, groggy and spitting up blood. She sees Jenny and Carol above her, sees that Carol is holding her phone, and manages a laugh. With her last remaining strength, she manages to say, "Okay, Google, trigger the explosives." Jenny and Carol look at each other, startled. We flash the tunnels below, where a dozen or so remaining bombs' red lights start blinking and beeping. A bomb that had been floating in midair suddenly drops to the floor, and we hear hurried footfalls and the panicked, "Shit, shit, shit!" Jenny and Carol join hands and start running for the exit as explosives start going off below. From Claudia's perspective, we see a cascade of flames approach and overtake her. Above, explosions follow our heroines as they flee the majestic theater. Jenny and Carol dive out of the theater's front doors just as it collapses behind them. We pull back to see that, apart from the Majestic, the rest of the block has sustained only minor damage. Jack has apparently worked backwards from the far end of the explosives, saving the ones under the Majestic for last. Since the audience, cast, and crew of Absence had already evacuated, this has likely prevented any casualties. Except, of course, for Claudia, who is buried somewhere in the wreckage. As the dust clears, Carol and Jenny sit on the curb in front of the St. James Theater across the street from the smoking Majestic, huddled in a fire department trauma blanket. This is all my fault. I should never have left you like I did.
Please. I was being a self-centered asshole. I was awful to you. I wanted the thrill of another big spooky adventure so badly I wouldn't let anything get in my way. Not even you.
And I was so defensive of my credentials and experience, so convinced of my superiority that it didn't even occur to me that you might be right. I'm really sorry, Carol.
Stop. Fuck. I can't do this. I can't let you keep talking like you're the bad guy here. You did nothing wrong, and I... Jenny, I'm so sorry. Me and the Phantom, we...
You don't have to apologize for anything. You were her prisoner.
I was, but also... I sort of wasn't. Nothing happened down there that I didn't want to happen. I was completely at her mercy, and I loved it, actually.
Jenny sits with that for a moment. Really need that sort of thing, don't you?
Yeah, I think I really do.
Jenny turns away, as disappointed in herself as she is in her fiancé. Carol gently turns her chin back towards her, and their eyes meet.
But you know what I need a lot more? Someone who will drop everything and fly across the country to chase some silly dream with me, even though she doesn't believe in it. Someone who can throw a knife through a bad guy's hand from 20 feet away, and who will make homemade pasta with me and snuggle during Top Chef and explain abstract art to me at museums. So yeah, Claudia tied me up and sexually frustrated me for like 6 hours, and that was amazing. But you came to my rescue. You do it every day. You're my hero. And if you still want to, I would really, really, really love to marry you.
Tears well in both of their eyes as they kiss, and the music swells in a triumphant reprise of Warm and Quiet.
And for the first time in my life, there's solid ground beneath my feet, and I don't mind it.
It's warm and quiet.
And I just can't wait to be your wife.
And I have never felt so alive.
Our couple, reunited, walks down Broadway with their heads high and their hearts full of hope, out into a promising future together. Back at the curb, the blanket they were under picks itself up and wraps around invisible shoulders. Jack Griffin sighs.
You gotta love a happy ending.
Credits. Mid-credit stinger.
Of course.
And good lord, there's still 15 minutes left.
We need him. We need him.
Firefighters dig through the rubble of the Majestic Theater. Thanks to Jack, this is a cleanup job, not a rescue. There's an ambulance on standby, but since no one's been reported missing and they're not expecting to find anyone, the entire crew is whipped into a frenzy when one of the firefighters cries out, "Body! Body! Body!" A few other firefighters and a set of EMTs crowd around to clear the remains of the Majestic's chandelier off a woman's body, clad in a torn and bloodied black leotard. A medical technician leans down to examine her, and she starts coughing.
Holy shit, she's alive. We need a trauma kit.
It's Claudia, of course. Her face is covered in severe burns, except for the portion that was covered by the Phantom mask. She gasps and screams as the screen cuts to black. The Phantom of the Opera will return.
Yes.
Post-credits. Dr. Jennifer Halsey takes a deep breath. We're in close-up. We can't see where she is or what she's doing, only that she's mentally preparing herself for something. She closes her eyes and repeats to herself, confidence, authority. She exhales and then raises a tan fedora onto her head. She opens a door in front of her and steps out into her bedroom, where Carol is tied to a chair and looks in awe at excitement at Jenny, who is dressed as Indiana Jones, complete with the whip. The end.
I love that we finally did it, our joke post-credit stinger instead of a franchise post-credit stinger. That's good. Terrific third act.
Thank you, Dalton.
Third act.
I did it.
You did it. The chandelier falling. The thing that I think about a lot, and the notes that I've had on your previous pitches, is always about fulfilling the promise of the premise, right? We got werewolves in London. We need some werewolves in London. You know, like that kind of thing.
There is a Phantom of the Opera in this Phantom of the Opera.
There's a Phantom of the Opera in it. The chandelier falls on her to kill her. That's great. I think this is a terrific third act. The only kind of general note I would give, and this is just the limit of, again, the podcast format and how we rate these, but I just want more of everything. I want more of the romance between the Phantom and
great problem to have. I'm so happy that that's your complaint.
The thing is just, we would just need to extend a lot of the big arcs and stuff.
Yes, at least like 8 more songs, and it needs
of course, we need more bodies.
I want more of Claudia. I would like to be able to get to know Erica so that maybe Aubrey Plaza can be in the movie through like archival footage. I'd like there to be more about trying to solve the mystery of her character and her relationship to these producers, and like maybe get into, granted, I did not do a ton of research about the sort of economics of Broadway workshops. Maybe this is completely, or, like whether or not the Majestic has a sub basement or the layout of the theater.
That's
right?
a big don't worry about it.
Yeah, like,
matter.
Are there security things? How are the catwalks? Blah, blah, blah. Not caring about it.
No.
But like, there are definitely, I would love for it to be a little bit more specifically Broadway. I would love to have more like goofy sort of, I would love for New York to be a character in the story, Dalton. But yeah, I want a little bit more time of our couple together. I want a little bit more time of Carol and the Phantom together.
Yeah.
But like, I don't feel like I need to add any characters, like maybe like people to die, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's really good. The big concern I had was Jack's arc, because obviously the Invisible Man movie, slapstick comedy, but we gave him a darker turn at the end of Dark Legion House of Dracula. And my intention with the character at that point was to give him sort of turn him away from the slapstick comedy aspect and give him a sort of, let him be dark and brooding for a while after this sort of ordeal he's been through. And so knowing that this was going to be more of a return to comedy Jack, I was a little wary of it, because I was like, I don't want to reset him so quickly.
I did my best not to do that. I had to make I had to do some gags, because I had the Liza Minnelli gag I couldn't resist.
I actually think it works. And honestly, I think part of it works because of the power of song and musical. Like the fact that we can give him sort of like a dark, song about like how miserable he was, and like we can kind of like explain away his dark period through verse.
Yeah,
I wrote him kind of works.
I wrote him a sad like Jackson Browne song,
which I think actually helps us kind of elide over that whole development in a way that is interesting and fun. Like if it was just him coming back and being like, oh, well, I got over it and I'm bumbling around again, like that's not satisfying. But the fact that this ups the ante by making it a musical, and it's consistent with Jack's character. We know he loves like show tunes and stuff, because he sings a Chicago number in The Invisible Man.
And so I had to sprinkle a bunch of other musicals in there to make sure that it wasn't obvious to anybody, especially since I think we said on the air that we were going to probably introduce Jack back in without announcing it, that like people might get wise to the idea that the Phantom is Jack.
Right. But it makes sense that like, oh, he's miserable. Why don't I go to Broadway? Like I like it's all very neat in a way that doesn't retread where he's been. So it kind of evolves his character arc in just a different way. Instead of letting him do like the dark Invisible Man movie, instead he gets to do a musical and sing a sad number about the darkness. And that is actually probably a more natural evolution of his character than doing a dark Invisible Man movie would be. Like, and that's something like I was just going to kind of worry about later. The fact like, well, do I then make The Invisible Man 2 as like a serious movie? That kind of feels like a disappointment, but I do want him to have this arc. And so it's kind of like, we'll figure it out as we go. But I actually think it works better for him if we just sort of wrap it all up in a musical number and call it good.
All right, I'm so happy you feel that way, because I was a little bit worried that I'd undercut what you wanted to do with the character. Like, you knew I was going to use Jack, and you knew this movie was going to be light. but you didn't know much else. And I really didn't want to sabotage the work that you put in. It makes me happy to hear that this has not fucked up your plans for him.
Above all else, it's always about being additive, right? And so we talk about that a lot. You gave Jack something new to do. And that was the point of giving him the dark thing, was like, okay, we've explored this kind of slapstick, hit him in the balls angle so well in the first movie. Let's give him something new and find a different flavor for him. You just found a different new flavor that is actually more consistent with him tonally in these movies. And so as long as we're adding something to him, I'm not going to be upset about it, and I think this does this very well.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
I said I was going to comment on the Carol and Jenny of it all, but I really like their resolution here, and anything more I would have to say, it would end up me getting too much into my own shit that I'm comfortable with or would actually be helpful on here. So I will just say I like their little moment here at the end, and it feels right and it feels consistent for both of them. And so I don't think we need to go into any more detail of what exactly they did, or anything like that, or whether that was what their relationship situation is. It's what matters that we see them forgive each other, and that's what works.
Yeah. And I like the idea that Carol has had to admit that she's wrong, and she's had to obviously fess up to this sort of infidelity under duress, but also kind of talking about what it meant to her personally, and that kind of doesn't let herself off the hook for how she felt about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously she did not verbally or literally consent to this interaction, right? But it was also we know, because we're attached to the character, that we don't have to feel quite as squicky about it, because she's obviously oh, this rocks, I love this.
There were, let's say several shades of gray.
Yes.
We could say a multitude
it's so
of
much
shades
less
of
problematic
gray.
than that. And then Jenny is kind of I can give this a shot for you if this is something that's important to you, which I think I'm sure a lot of relationships have gone through a period of adjustment where someone's been I want to try X or Y, and the other one's I don't know. And then at a certain point, let's go for it. Whether or not it works out, I think the effort is pretty valuable in terms of I don't know, just taking care of each other and your needs in a relationship.
Yeah. And look, we have a fucking musical episode now.
Yes, we do.
How do we not have 10,000 listeners to this podcast? If you're out there listening, we went through the trouble. Dylan went through the trouble. I can say Dylan went through the trouble of giving you a musical Phantom of the Opera in the dark. There is a Dark Universe Phantom of the Opera musical now that
starring Dr. Jennifer Halsey from The Mummy.
That actually uses someone from the 2017 Mummy. Every person out there, you owe it to Dylan to get 100 of your closest friends to listen to this podcast.
Here's the real incentive for you. I could never have done this if I had a part-time day job that I had to do. And I have a kid now, money's tight. That's not outside the realm of possibility that I'll have to do that. If you really support if you want more bullshit like this, and you want us to have time to put this much work into the show, please pledge to our technically unrelated Patreon, Are You Afraid of Dylan and Dalton, at patreon.com/Dylan and Dalton, so we can keep putting this much time into the show.
And come freak out with us about this in the Discord, because I can't wait to hear what the Discord has to say about this.
We're going to have to wait 2 weeks before we tell anyone about this.
I know, now I have to be tight-lipped about it. Although we haven't talked about this, but I assume that downloads of all these songs will be made exclusively available to patrons.
I will, especially since it technically involves no Universal-owned material. We actually can, without worrying about any legal matters, put both these versions and the demos that I sing of each one of these songs up on the Patreon for all patrons. If you want to get in on that, it's $5 a month.
Maybe eventually, if some lofty goal is met, maybe the full musical will be written out by both of us.
Listen,
we can collaborate.
That's the things. I would love to collaborate with you musically. You're a tremendous songwriter, and honestly, this is so much more in your wheelhouse than me. I almost feel bad, if people like this and they're going to go to listen to No Jersey, and they're going to be this is a pop punk band. This is nothing like this. I'm all right, well, hopefully you still if you like my songwriting, please check out No Jersey.
Yes, Dylan's
my
a very
band
good songwriter.
And you can listen to my old music with the Hell Yeah Babies, which is also pretty good. Yeah, but yeah, I've never done this before, so.
Well, I think we can move into picture lock.
Let's do it.
What
All
do
right.
we need to lock in as we move into our third to last film before our crossover?
Important things. Carol and Jenny still engaged.
Great. They didn't break up.
Relationship is stronger than ever through this trial, which of course is what every romance needs.
Of course.
There is someone out there who is not supernatural, but is an incredibly talented hacker / dominatrix who has now a bone to pick with Carol and Jenny. Jack has been bumming around Broadway secretly for the past couple of months since House of Dracula and intends on being present for the wedding, but we don't know if he's going to show his face metaphorically. He and Carol have still not spoken. I wanted to save that.
True.
Because they are the friends who've known each other the longest.
Yes.
And apart from that, I don't think there's a lot of added lore. I guess I've fleshed out a little bit of what Jenny's expertise are. Again, because I just keep giving her new skills and abilities. She is also basically, although she's not a magician, she has basically studied like the history and
occult things.
And occult magic thing, like not just Egyptian and Egyptology stuff, but she knows all about magic, everything but doing it.
Yeah. All right, let's lock it in.
It's alive! In the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe? We will never do this thing again.
No, now I have to.
Now I have to do a musical in phase three. Okay, well, you made me promise to make a legit horror movie, and now I guess you're now pledging on the air that you're going to make a musical.
I don't want to pledge it, but I mean, Invisible Man 2.
Bear in mind,
feels like it would have to be.
Dalton puts out some fairly theatrical music already on their own album and stuff. You listen to Dalton the Shane and the Traveling Show, you will like it. If you like this show, you will probably like Dalton the Shane and the Traveling Show.
And I am writing the second album right now, which might get in the way of me doing a musical, but who knows?
Yeah, and they're concept albums that have novels that come with them. That's basically a musical. You wrote the music and the book.
Just listen to the music I've already written.
Buy the book, listen to the music, do that stuff, and then Dalton doesn't have to do a musical. Then, of course, if you give us a lot of money, we'll do it. And please pledge to our Patreon. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Dark Universe Pod or on Facebook.com/Dark Universe Pod. You can email us at darkuniversepod@gmail.com, or you can send us a voicemail. I'm not going to bother reading the fucking phone number anymore because there's a link to it, probably, if I've done my job right, in the description of the episode. And you can call us, leave us a voicemail, and we'll play it on the air if we like it. We also have a Discord, which you can get to by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Dylan and Dalton. That's DYLANANDDALTON. And you can talk about this shit and movies and other creative projects that we're all involved in. People have sent us the things that they've written or baked or whatnot in there. We love to talk about it. It's super fun.
And
so
look,
please join our community.
We need to hit our goal for the bonus podcast because we have to talk about the Pope's Exorcist.
Yes, we do.
That is so Dark Universe coded.
Yes.
With Russell Crowe in it. We don't have time on this show, but we got to talk the Pope's Exorcist. And also, I have a pitch for a Lost reboot that I really want to talk about.
Are You Afraid of Dylan and Dalton, the second podcast that will launch as soon as we hit $200 a month on the Patreon. And we're roughly halfway there as we record this. That's when we start doing the second feed where we can talk about everything but this for money. And and until then, Dalton, tell them what we got coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. In 2 weeks, we will have another guest episode with guests Maddie Lebchansky and Jaya Saxena. Maddie writes for The Nib and has a new graphic novel coming out called Boys Weekend, and Jaya writes for Eater. They are going to be joining us to pitch a remake of the 1973 Universal Pictures horror film.
Dalton, how many S's that spelled with?
I don't know. I have to look it up. It's just called and it is some sort of snake-themed horror movie that we haven't watched yet, but they're going to pitch us their modern Dark Universe remake of it. And then 2 weeks after that, it's my turn again as I pitch The Bride of Frankenstein.
I'm so excited. What a night. What a night we've had here on Thursday the 13th.
So, until we see you in 2 weeks,
stay afraid of the Dark Universe.
Yeah, what did I think? It was okay. I think there might have been a bit more depth than the Phantom of the Opera needed, but whatever. I did make a list of actors I think could play the Phantom of the Opera. I mean, they're all men, obviously, but yeah, anyway. Mandy Patinkin, Alice Cooper, Peter McCauley, David Calder, Anthony Hopkins, Tom McCamus, Jonathan Pryce, Michael Dorman, Andre Sounds, Ray Renstone, and Richard Roxburgh. Anyway, that'll be all for today. I'll see you all next time. See ya!